Looks like I'm here. Wait, what's audio output doing? Is that normal? Mic, mic checking. Mic's going good. Okay, that's working. So last stream my camera bugged out, and then I've also had to rearrange my entire setup since then. And so I guess we'll just see. I think it's video capture. Do I have? Yeah, I have a mic or I have a webcam. Ooh, okay. So the floating disassembled voice of Joe appears. I know. Basilisk, hello. Rio Faux Pew. Meowdy, says Moxlight. Meowdy indeed. Meowdy. So speaking of yeehaw, I have been addicted to the farming game Fields of Mystria. It's basically like Stardew Valley, but slightly different. It's very similar. But anyway, it's been a lot of fun. I get very addicted to those games. Like all the, I mean, I'm calling it min-maxing, but not really because it's my first playthrough. But like trying to find all the little things I can do to like be more efficient. I don't know. I love it. I love that kind of game. It's probably not the way cozy games are intended to play, but it's a lot of fun. I've really been enjoying it. Cause like everything that I like about it is the least cozy aspects about the game. Like I enjoy that there's I don't know, it's hard to describe it. There's just like little things like when you don't have bag space, for example, like throwing your items on the ground in strategic ways or locations so that you can make use of them later. Like I don't know if you guys have ever seen people do like there's like some Minecraft one inventory challenge runs where like you have to really be clever about how you do things because certain things need multiple inventory spaces. But if you're in your menu when you pick an item up, it'll plop it into your inventory so you can kind of get to. Well, there's stuff you can kind of do like that because you have very. Anyway, I find it fun, just like trying to find ways to be more efficient or like I don't know, just it's great, but it's very addicting. Okay, art. We're gonna do art today. So I wait. Did I make? I think I. Oh crap! I forgot to use my. Oh man, I'm sorry. I'm all scattered brain. I'm way behind today. Um. So I forgot to make an Instagram post, but I think I had one on Buffer, which I was gonna update it and change it and not have it post because it's not actually the stuff I wanted to post. Nope, it's there. Yeah, okay. Apparently I made that post. That's okay. But anyway, this was the post that I realized last stream that all of my paintings had green. So I had a bunch of forests. I don't think you guys can see this. Hold on. So I had a bunch of forests here, and all of them had green in, except this one. It says blue, but they were all very green. That's what made me decide I wanted to do no green, which is what led to these, which is then what led to this, which I really liked. I was very happy with this painting. So I'm gonna do the same thing today, but minus blue. Well, not minus blue, but just no blue, which is a little bit harder to define, I think. Like, what is blue? Like, is purple blue? It's pretty blue relative to other colors. So, I think purple is harder, or blue is harder to define. But we'll see how it goes. That's brilliant. It's something. I liked it. I had a lot of fun. It's obviously very loose, and it was just a sketchy painting. But, yeah. So, no blue today. I don't know how that's going to work. If I'm being frank, if I'm being honest, I don't know. Thomas Lambkin Jr. How's it going? Oh, blue. I'm also gonna try to avoid like the borderline blues, like the blue greens and the purples. Like I'll allow myself to get into greens, obviously, but I'm gonna try to stay, warmer greens, more yellow greens. If I get into the purples, I'll be more into like the reddish purples, you know, like fuchsias and whatever you call those. But I'm gonna try to avoid the super cool colors where I'm basically just adding blue. Like if I want to use a purple, that's fine, but I can make it really purple. But once I start adding blue into it, it now becomes less, it's still purple, but it becomes more of a blue purple, right? So even though you could argue, well, these aren't blue. Well, I literally just made them by adding blue. So basically, if I have to add blue to something to get a new color, I don't want that color. Unless we're talking like, I don't know, like a yellow and then I add blue to it. Like that's gonna, right? Like this, well, even then, but these colors are still very, very desaturated, right? Like this is, even if we get down here, I think if I'm in the purples, it's okay as long as it's very gray. I don't want like super saturated. Well, I don't know. I'll have to think about it. It's not a very defined rule, but there's gonna be a lot of me backpedaling my choices, I think, when I realize that this is color. When we start talking about how just colors are relative and this color has blue in it, but like not very much. Like the fact it has RGB sliders and the slider isn't at 0 means it has blue in it, right? Like, but that's not really what I'm doing. Because that's... Could I do that? Just something with 0 in the RGB slider of blue? No, I think we'd be way too saturated, right? There's no way... Like, isn't that how you get less saturated colors? I'm trying to think how... Yeah, because the second you start going over to gray on any of these colors, you're out of saturation. So yeah, you couldn't do 0 on the slider. I mean, maybe you could. Yeah, you couldn't keep the blue on the 0 for the slider. Because again, even if I don't press full opacity, the second I make a mark like this, and then I color pick, now there's blue in it, because I've mixed it with the background gray. So yeah, I won't be able to do that. I'm just going to be more visual appeal, like how this doesn't have green in it, but technically if I pick the color, well, it does in fact have green in it. This would be the color without green, right? So like, this has green, but it's not visually green, right? So that's my goal. No visual blue. If somebody looks at it and says, that's blue, you know, we're going layman's terms here. Okay. Because I otherwise it's going to be, I mean, it would be possible, but it would just not. I don't know. It's leaving a lot on the table. Let's put it that way. I can still start with these colors, though. Greens, reds, very autumny colors. You'd almost have to make your own color palette to pick from, wouldn't you? Well, yeah, so that's typically what I do. I do make my own color palette by selecting random colors, not always literal random, but by, you know, basically just picking random colors, and then once they're on my palette, I use those. I color pick from what's already there. So I do all the blending and stuff there. It just helps keep them consistent. I find if you're just picking random colors and slapping them in, you're much more likely to have colors that just, I don't know, it's harder to make them work well, I think. I find as long as you're blending them, you're gonna be pretty okay. It pretty much doesn't matter what colors you pick with or start with. I like a variety, a couple warms, a couple cools, a couple lights, a couple darks, and then we're good. That's what I do. Also, my webcam might start... Oh, my webcam's off. I was gonna say, my webcam might start freaking out. Because here, let's turn... Does this have a webcam? There we go. There. So this is the no webcam. And yeah. Yeah, but anyway, my webcam may start freaking out today. It's been having a moment. it's been struggling a bit. So yeah, how's everybody been? Hope everybody's been good. Has anyone painted anything exciting? Or not exciting? Has anyone painted a... Here's a better question. Maybe not a better one, but it's a different one that's more not very asked very often. Has anyone painted anything that just... Or just ever, I guess. What turned out so terrible, despite putting a lot of time into it, that you're like... I don't know, like, you... So yeah, not a good painting, basically. I mean, I think everybody who's painted a lot has made not good paintings. But yeah, has anyone made any not good paintings lately? All the time? Yeah. But like, I don't know, like lately where maybe you make something and you scrap it for something else, or you have to actively go back. Because like me, normally when something starts not working, I don't actually scrap it. I just keep painting on it until I fix it. But yeah, sometimes you have to like actually go backwards. So often, okay. Does anyone want to share their bad paintings? No, just kidding. That's the follow-up that you don't ask. Are you asking if I deleted paintings? Never. Ooh, see, yeah, I don't delete paintings. I mean, they stay on my hard drive. I mean, I have no issue with deleting them. If it's an actual painting I finished, I have a strict no delete rule. If it's a finished piece of art... Oh, really, Drawfee? What's the reasoning or thought process behind delete your art? See, I have a strict no delete art that I made. I mean, I'm okay deleting off like Instagram and stuff, and not really. I like having it there as an archive. Social media is weird though because it kind of depends on why you're using it. If you're using it as a portfolio, absolutely delete your old art. Like you want, a portfolio is supposed to show your best work and your current work. And so deleting it makes sense. But no, I don't like deleting. So I like having the record there. I don't think I need to be happy with it. I look back at my old art and it's terrible. And it makes me, makes me cringe a little bit. But that's okay because, I learned stuff. It was good at the time. And in some ways, some of them have sentimental value. So I don't really like the idea of deleting art. I feel like it's always sad when people delete art or throw it away and then never, literally destroy all record of it. I don't know. It's more of a joke. They say delete your art anytime one of them gets kind of far into a concept and then starts over or covers up a large portion of their drawing. Gotcha. Okay. See, I think that's a good thing to advocate for, which is we've had this discussion before, right? Where like depending on the type of art you're doing, especially if you're doing anything for a product, anything production related, whether it's illustration, concept art, basically it's something where the end result is really important, right? Like that is gonna be the thing that speaks for your work. I think it's a great mindset to get into of just like trash things, start over, you can do work for a couple hours. If it's not going in direction, start over, like figure out what isn't working is just as good as figuring out what is. But I don't actually advocate for like, oh, here's my whole body of work on the project. I'm going to delete the project, right? Like it's nice to have like, be able to show someone, look at all the iterations I went through, right? It doesn't mean you literally deleted it. It just means you scrapped it and put it aside and started over, but not literally threw it in the trash. Like, to me, it's good to have the mindset of like, I'm not going to settle for something that is not what I'm happy with. But at the same time, I don't know. So I feel like those messages can get confused or mixed up and kind of mushed together because some people would hear, oh, it's good to start over and delete your art. But then it's like, well, it's also probably good to, like save it, archive it, and then never look at it again. Like I don't think you have to go back and like, put it up on your wall, but also, this kind of looks like a weird, swampy something. I don't know. Kind of cool. I have boxes of bad drawings, but the drives with paintings, I don't feel the need to keep them forever, I guess. Oh, interesting. See, I want to just because I like the idea of someday being able to look back, tell the story of like, here's what the things I made, and here's where how good I was, or here's my progress. Like, I think it's just nice to be able to see progress because we always view everything with sort of our modern day perspective. So being able to go back kind of it's a little time capsule. I don't know, I like that. I like the idea of having little time capsules of your work. It helps you kind of remember what it was like to do the work. um we were kind of talking about this last stream, right? I think with when people learn, like keeping journals of what you learn. I don't do this, and I always kick myself for not doing it. But like, if you ever learn something new, write it down so that you can know what it felt like to learn it or felt like to not know it. Because I feel like those things we take for granted, right? We like 10 years, something that I learned 10 years ago and I struggled with for weeks and weeks and it felt like years. And then finally it's like, oh, I got it now. Now I don't even think about it. It's just like second nature. And it's hard to remember that, oh, there are other people who are not going to understand this thing. Or, there's other people who are going to struggle just as much or more than I did. And it's hard for me to even relate if I haven't experienced that in, say, 10 years or however long. So that's like one of the reasons I'm big on that. And that's from more of like a teachery perspective. Also, what am I painting right now? This kind of looks like a swamp. Kind of swampy. Get me out of the swamp. Get out of me. Oh, get out of me, swamp. Yeah, it's very Shrek. Yeah. I don't know if it's gonna be a swamp. A swamp. Just kind of making some shapes in the foreground. Slapping some green there. I mean, it does feel pretty swampy. I like it, though. It's a good first no blue sketch. It's a good warm-up. Looks like a loading screen from Guild Wars 2, almost. Guild Wars 2 does have a lot of... Yeah, Guild Wars 2 has awesome art. I love that they have such a loose and sketchy look in the, like, actual release of the game. I think that is something that I miss about Guild Wars 2. And just in general, it's something you really don't like. Everybody knows that it looks nice, right? People like it, I think, but it's really hard to allow yourself to like make final work that looks like a sketch. I think that's really hard for companies because you could just spend more time and make them more polished, and there's arguably something nice, but I think it's only when it's like in a totality and you see all the sketchiness, that's where it starts to create like an entire style that is associated with your game. And so you kind of have to be like all or nothing, and I think it's really hard for people to allow themselves to just like, oh, yep, I'm gonna stop here. I mean, obviously they don't, because they do have like, it's finished in the sense that like it does what they want it to do. The range in Guild Wars 2 art is crazy. Some art Ruan Gia detailing like crazy. Wait, Ruan Gia has art in Guild Wars 2? I didn't know that. Or at least I don't think I knew that. Or are you saying some art looks like he detailed it? Did he actually make Guild Wars 2 art? I feel like Ruan Gia is associated with like hyper... People think of him and they're like hyper detailed. No, he has... Okay, no, I believe you. I believe you. I just wasn't sure. That's cool. I didn't know that, though. Anyway, so yeah, there's a little swampy landscape. It almost looks like I don't know, like a What's the word for like a hot? Are most swamps tropical? I guess they are, kind of, aren't they? This looks like a very hot swamp. Also, did I ever go live on the YouTube? Yeah, I did. Okay. I am live on the YouTubes. The YouTubes. Plural. No, just one of them. Alright. I am gonna make another painting. Again, no blue. No blue today. Let's do something with like let's paint a okay, I know. We're gonna paint something, but it's gonna be close up. So I'm gonna paint like a giant crystal. Or something. Again, I don't really know. I haven't decided yet. But maybe a giant crystal, maybe something built out of some mineral or material. I don't know. That could be a fun direction to go. Oh, that's very green. I do fear that if I don't allow myself to use blue, everything's going to look green today. So let's try to push into the reds. Also, what am I doing with this brush? Is this the brush I used for this? No. Can't be. Did I really use this brush stuff for the whole thing? Oh, I guess I did use a lot. I meant to use this brush, and then I realized just how weird that other brush was. Anyway, that works. That will work. There's a bunch of Guild Wars 2 art on his art station. Okay. For those who don't know, Ruan Jia, I don't know if that's how you say his name, but he does the most, like... I don't think it's purely just him spending a ton of time. I think he does. But he... Here, let's go to his... His art is like, it has a texture to it. And I think it's Whoop, I can't zoom in properly. I think it's just, I mean, it literally is just so much detail. Like, it has a texture to it because of the detail. Like, this isn't even getting started. And just like, there's so much little specular lights on everything. Like, look at this. It's unbelievable how much detail. And this is like, you know, this could be an image for a normal person. This would be super detailed. But this is like a small part of one of... Anyway, when you look at it, it has like a grittiness to it because of the amount of detail. Anyway, he's wild. I feel like, yeah, when I think of Rungia, I just think of so much detail. Is there anybody else who goes this hard in detail, as hard as him? Like, he's gotta be up there, right? Like, look at this. If you zoom in, there's like again, a lot of it's not real detail, I think. I think a lot of it has to do with, like, maybe some of his brush strokes, maybe some textury stuff. But, I mean, it's like he's rendering with, like, tiny little chicken scratches. Everything is like chicken scratch, and it just gives this, like, weird texture. But it's not, because if you look in, like, here, I'm pretty confident he's not going to do, like, you know, chicken scratch marks. It's like there's a lot of texture going on, too. And so but it just has this quality to it. Like, if you squint, it's not just like, this is still very loose in the sense that it's not defined and in focus, but it has a lot of, like, subtle value changes, subtle color changes. It feels very work. I don't know. It's so hard to describe. But it's just wild. I feel like this dude is on another level. Yeah, I don't know. It's absolutely crazy. He blows my mind. Sire Knight Sparrow. Siren Knight, how are you? Someday. No, I won't. I will never. I don't even strive to achieve that level of detail. I don't like doing it for myself. How does one master perspective? Well, I am not a master perspective. I think I have the answer though. Uh, do it very carefully. Do it by the book. Practice the theory of it until the theory is so ingrained that you know it perfect and any problem you can solve, and treat it like doing math homework. And I think if you do that long enough, and you eventually, once you know the theory and it's just a matter of doing the busy work, then you start finding shortcuts, right? So you start by getting good enough to where you could teach high level perspective, essentially, right? You need to understand it. And then you start shorthanding it, and that way you don't, I mean, because I don't think you have to like always be construction lining everything, right? At some point you just want to be able to freehand it, but you have to actually know what you don't do and don't know. That, I think that's, anyway, that's my opinion when it comes to anything like that, where like we know what the ceiling is, right? Anything that you can imagine perspective, whether it's scaling up or down or rotating or doing whatever, perspective is going to be a thing where there's kind of like we know kind of what the theoretical maximum could look like, right? Because it's just someone who understands it very well and can probably freehand it very well. But I think you can only get there if you understand it that well, right? And then you have to start looking for shortcuts, kind of, or like, you know, instead of having to, for example, like sketching everything out and measuring, right? At some point, you know, you can be like, okay, well, I'm just going to draw it and it's going to be pretty accurate, right? It might not be perfect, but these lines are mostly going to converge in a place, and this line is mostly going to converge in the same place, and you're just going to, you know, you're going to get it pretty good. Your English is worse than making Pokemon Red speak. No worries. It's okay. And honestly, I think that's sort of how I would, if I really wanted to get to the very best. I feel like that's kind of how you go about it in general. Nahia Hidalgo, hello. Hello, Holy. How's it going? Hope you're doing well. But yeah, I think that's sort of the way to get better, like those upper levels anyway, is to treat it like a science at first a little bit. Because it's like, even with something like rendering form, right? I think you can learn a lot of simplified ways and shorthand stuff to show form and all that. But there is a point where if you really want to show the bounce slide and all the shifts and hues and all the things and the nuanced rendering, like you probably have to understand what's happening so that you can make those choices for yourself later. Because knowing perspective, that will help everything. Yeah, I think so. I think it will. Perspective is one of those things that is, yeah, I do agree. I think it's probably the most important, depending on the kind of art you want to make. And I think for a lot of people, especially here probably, are, you know, illustration type people or concept art people, and they do want to, or, you know, just representational art in some way. And yeah, you probably do want to know perspective. Yeah, exactly. It's very concrete, yeah. I think the only thing that probably is equally as concrete is like how light works, lighting. And even then you have choices you can make with like different types of cameras and you know, filter type effects. But again, they're all still functioning through physics, right? Because light is working because of physics. It's literally like math. You know, it's just as mathy as perspective. Actually, perspective is also similar, right? Depending on what type of camera lens you have, things are going to look different. There's different distortions happening because perspective is a, you know, is a 2D representation of a 3D object. Yeah. See, proportion though, no, see, I think once you get it into proportion of like how things actually are, that's where you just start making like there's a lot of what looks good. A lot of subjectivity goes in there. There's still a science to it, I think, and or an art, whatever you want to define those words as. There's still like rules and things that we follow, like just things that we like probably for biological reasons and things we don't for probably biological reasons. Like, there are things that humans find appealing. I think that's a pretty fair statement. It doesn't mean that we all find them equally appealing, but there are general principles, I think, that most humans will find certain things more appealing than others. And so in broad strokes, I think we can define it. But yeah, if you want to get real nitty gritty, there is just a lot of your personal preference, which is, again, why art's an art and not, we don't call it a science. But there is a lot of knowledge stuff that's rooted in science in art. So I don't know. I like learning that stuff. Yeah, anatomy's concrete, but how you choose to show the anatomy on a 2D picture plane or whatever or a 3D picture plane, whatever, is completely subjective, right? Again, if you're using a camera, that camera can distort it. Different lenses are going to show that anatomy differently. Relative to each other, I guess the proportions are still right. But you have like stylization. Think like The Incredibles, right? They push anatomy crazy amounts, but no one looks at it and says, oh, the anatomy's all wrong. Like, no, relative to each other, it's kind of right. Even though that's not relative to me, their anatomy is wrong, right? Feet don't look that tiny relative to the head. But, like, there are artistic choices that are made for reasons, right? A lot of them push certain ideas or concepts and they make them even better. Anyway, what am I drawing here? I don't know. Let's go pink. If I go too gray, so much. There is a lot of subjectivity. Yeah. I mean, it's even if I don't even know. I mean, subjectivity is kind of, to me, it can easily become sort of a hand-wavy term where you're like, oh, it's all subjective, as if it doesn't matter then. Well, I think probably we could actually even do better than using the word subjectivity, right? I know how pretentious I'm sounding now, but to me, especially if you have a purpose behind your art, right? Think like gesture drawing. Oftentimes you choose to push the gesture not because, oh, it's subjective and I want it that way, or I think it looks good. No, it's oftentimes you have a reason, right? Your reason might be subjective, right? You don't have to show that the character is, for example, if you had a character throwing a baseball, right? You could extend the pose and make them look even more into the motion. Or you could have them look like they're throwing it very lazily, right? Both might be exaggerated in one direction or the other, and it's kind of a matter of your taste. What direction do you want to push it in, right? You could argue that it's objectively pushing it in that direction, right? It is, if you make the gesture look a certain way, it's going to make it look more like they're throwing the ball in a lazy manner than if they're really try-harding and, overextending their motion, making it look like they're, really putting their back into it. Like, the effect that the gesture has on us isn't super subjective. I mean, it is subjective, but it is doing a thing, right? They're both, like, the lazy gesture versus the extreme version of it, right? They're both making us feel something, and I think most people would feel that thing, right? You'd look at the lazy throw and you're like, oh, that person's throwing the ball really wimpily, And then you have someone really doing a big wind up or whatever, and they're extending their arm. You're like, oh, that person's really putting effort into it. I think that interpretation of it, like, yes, there's still some subjectivity, but the subjectivity comes in what you wanted to do with it in the first place, I think. Right? Like, you had you didn't have to do that, right? This was your choice because you're wanting to do it. You like that thing. You wanted to put that way. But then once you've decided this is what I want, there are I mean again, especially in the middle ground, I think there are better and worse ways of doing things. I think once you get to the edges, you can have two things that both accomplish the goal and just that are just different, right? Um, and then I don't think there's better or worse. But I think in the big broad strokes, there absolutely is. I mean, is it absolutely is? I think, or is it just I think it's an absolute. As long as you define your terms. Anyway. So yeah. Or define what your metrics are. And again, us as the artist, right? We know what the metrics are. So I guess that's the unspoken part, right? Is we know what the metrics are, and I think so long as you agree what the metrics are, then I think there is a bit of objectivity. I think subjectivity creeps in when you're a viewer looking at art and you don't know what the metrics are, and you can't clearly define how those metrics are being defined, and so you're just kind of like, that wasn't very good, or I don't like that, right? Like I think of a horror movie where like imagine you go into a horror movie and you walk out and you say that wasn't scary, therefore it's a bad horror movie. Fair enough, right? If they tried to make it a scary horror movie and it isn't, then they have failed, right? They set out to do something, they didn't do it, therefore that is a failure of a movie on the basis that it was supposed to be scary, right? But it might also have been hilarious and super entertaining and exciting, and maybe that's actually what they wanted instead, and maybe they nailed it. So maybe maybe it was just a misbranding. Maybe it wasn't the artist who failed or the movie, but the branding, right? Like it kind of depends on, like, you don't know who, especially if you have multiple people making something. Now it gets even more confusing because different people could have slightly different goals, right? The lighting designer might not be 100% on the same page as an animator, who might not be 100% on the same page as a storyboard artist. You'd hope that they're all on the same page, but no one's going to have perfect communication. So you might get little bits and pieces of things that were done for slightly different reason. And that's going to add an impossibility of being objective about something, because you can just never know all of that, right? We're merely the viewer of something. The sky looks surprisingly beautiful right now where I live. Oh, nice. Yeah, take a photo. Photograph it. So yeah, it's always... Has anyone ever got annoyed? Like, I know I'm not arguing that art isn't subjective. I do feel that when people oftentimes say, well, it's all subjective, it feels like an excuse to like not try to define why, or I don't know, like I don't know, sometimes it just feels lazy. And I have nothing against being lazy, but not really anyway. Sometimes I think laziness is totally fine. But I don't know. Sometimes art is subjective feels like it's a catchphrase used to not be critical about what your goals are, especially as an artist, right? Same with that's just my style. Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, it's like instead of being critical about what your goals are and saying my goal was to, draw this character in a way that makes him look sad, right? And then when everyone looks at it and says, what's that character doing? Is he happy? And you're like, no, he's sad. And you're like, well, I don't think it's very good. And you're like, well, that's just my style. It's like, well, no, if you set out to make him sad and he looks happy, you can do better, right? Like we've defined the term, right? Because we're talking about art as an artist, not as the viewer, right? Like if we send a message and that message is not received the way that we intended, we can probably do better. I mean, you could also, you know, learn to read art better, but I think in general that is more on the artist. I don't know. Okay, this feels kind of creepy, but it's kind of cool. What is it? It feels like a heart. The heart of the forest. But maybe these are big, droopy leaves. No, maybe not. Maybe they're rounded leaves. Maybe that's what I'm doing. Rounded leaves. Wait, how did... So, the underside of the leaf, and then the overside of the leaf. Wasn't there the figure 8 thing where you do, like, an object? Yeah, like that. Just like a figure 8. I don't know if I want to do that. And then over here could be, like, the underside. I don't know, I always struggle with that shape. I don't know why. Okay, let's try this. This might look terrible. What I love most is when viewers see so much meaning behind something I did for ha-has, and then I'm like, yep, exactly what I was supposed to. See, I don't like that. Well, I will never lie and be like, that's what yeah, that's totally what I did. I don't like that. I think it's good to be honest about stuff like that, in my opinion, because it helps over time add to art literacy. And I think, I mean, it sucks because sometimes I do think there are a little bit of hucksters out there, you know, who sort of pull the wool over people's eyes and they treat their art like a big magic trick and everything is close to the chest and they don't ever, like, they treat everything as if it's some, like, magic, literal magic. And it's like, you know, oh, you know, people talk, like, sort of talking as if everything is super deep. And it's like, well, sometimes you do just want to have fun and you didn't make it for some deep reason. And just because, like, I think there's just an acknowledgement of, like, you can have art that people love for one reason or the other, and it doesn't have to be the reason I made it, right? Or it doesn't have to be the reason an artist made it. Like, I acknowledge that people could get something meaningful out of my art, potentially, depending on what piece of art I make, but it doesn't have to mean that to me. And sometimes a little bit of, you know, it might be my goal that there is stuff left up to the imagination, and that's good, right? Maybe the story is intentionally vague and someone sees themselves in there, and, you know, that's awesome. I mean, I guess in the same vein, it's important to understand, like, maybe you accidentally do it. It's totally possible that the way that you painted something is so nebulous that, like, it was obvious people were going to get things from it, and you just didn't know, and so you accidentally, like, you know, wrote a heartfelt speech or something, when really you were just, like, I don't know. I think sometimes it's tricky. I don't know. I think it really just comes down to like what you like. And if you don't like something, that's fine too. There, no blue. I like this painting. This one's fun. This is just, it started very abstract, and now I'm starting to define shapes a little bit. This is gonna be like a big rock here. Art school, you kind of just gotta find meaning in it. I think it depends on the school, though. I think I have never gone to art school, so I don't know. But isn't there sort of like two brands of art school? There's like the fundamentals first, sort of production type stuff. So animation, uh, uh, I guess ateliers probably fall into this as well. Or anything around concept art, or basically anything around design and with drawing as a foundation. And then you have sort of the what's the word for it? Um, Conceptual art. So think fine art, but conceptual fine art schools, where it's more about an idea, but they don't necessarily teach you how to do the idea. It's more about thinking about how to make art rather than making it, kind of. I don't know. Maybe you do actually make art there. I don't really know. I'm a little bit biased against those. I will say though, the more that I learn art, the more that stuff appeals to me. In that I think it's there is valuable skill in a lot of how to make something interesting. But I do kind of get the vibe that sometimes, and maybe somebody who's went to art school can chime in, but I do sometimes get the feeling that there is a little bit of like learning how to BS your way to like explain things in a I don't know. There's a couple people. There's a Twitch streamer. I'm not gonna name them, and I like their stuff. I like their stuff. They're a super chill person. I've been to their stream before. I think they've been to my stream. They're one of the nicest people probably you'd ever meet. But my goodness, when they talk about their art, it I don't know if I can take them seriously. Like it makes it sound like it's the most important thing ever, and it's like, I mean, it's all right, but like, I mean, I know I'm not supposed to judge it based on purely what I perceive their skill to be, but it's like you kind of get the feeling of like, is this person drinking their own Kool-Aid kind of thing? Like, do they really believe this, or have they just learned how to BS it? And like, I know enough about their background to know they very much went through like the art school thing, right? Like that whole pipeline. And I don't maybe that's the reason they wanted to go there in the first place, or maybe they learned that from the I don't know, right? I'm not really sure. I don't want to hate on it because again, I actually really I do like how they sort of see the world, right? I like their I don't think it's total BS. Um, and like I say, I think there's valuable skill there, but I also think sometimes the it feels like the theory or the something is like beyond the I don't know. I'm not sure what it is. I don't know enough about it. All I know is it just yeah it weirds me out a little bit, when you hear someone sort of stand up and present their art as if it's like, you know, like oh, I what I was feeling at the time. Like I guess my issue it's not even with the artist, right? It's more that it feels like it's throwing out everything we know about psychology because there's a lot of like when you try to explain why you did an action or did a thing, like we're okay-ish at explaining it, but like a lot of times we make up reasons, we don't know why we did something in the moment. We just go with the flow and then we rationalize it later and like we know that there's a lot of like we're not that good at explaining why we did things or especially in like in the moment, right? Um, and it feels like it's adding this super concrete explanation to something that they probably did when they were just in the flow state. They were in the flow state. They were just going with the flow. They were painting, and then it's like giving this backwards rationalization to a thing, and like that doesn't feel like it meshes with my understanding of how humans are, right? Like to state things that confidently feels like BS, even if you truly believe it. And I kind of think trying to do that over and over is arguably harmful. Like, I don't think it's a good way of approaching understanding why you made a choice. Now, if they actually had a goal and they did a thing for a reason, and that actually is, followed through, I think it's fine to say, here's the reasons, here's why I did it, here's what I was thinking at the moment. But as somebody who very much sometimes will paint just like, what I'm feeling or just on a whim, I can't explain it that clearly. Like, I don't know. I just don't, because I don't think it's possible for me to do that, really. Unless I have the thought ahead of time, right? Like, if I'm illustrating something, or, I'm doing a commission, like, sure, then I can know why I made choices. So yeah, I don't know. I'm very much, I have mixed feelings about that way of, like, communicating about your art. Why do I keep missing notifications to your streams? I don't know. Maybe they're turned off for you on your end. I can't turn them off for you, but maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I would love to, because I know we have people who have gone to art school in here. I would love to hear more about people's, like, art school experiences. Like, all the artsy stuff that you learned, the non-art artsy stuff. So, like, how to think about art, how to talk about art. I would love to know more, have some insights into, like, your brains and, like, what you learned. You'll reach this screen and turn off notifications. Well, I think technically if I, like, blocked someone, then they may not get notifications from me. So that would be me turning off notifications for them. But no, I just mean, like, there might be a Twitch setting that says, like, turn off notifications or stop seeing this message kind of thing, where maybe at some point you had clicked, like, remind me later. I don't know. I don't really know that much about the settings. But yeah, I always feel like it's hard for me to talk about that sort of my thoughts on it, because they really are so incomplete. And I do have, I think, some bias against it, because I've heard of I feel like I've seen and heard a lot of people, like, or a lot of people who have gone through that experience. Maybe I haven't picked their brain as much as I could have. Um, and I sometimes get, like, the feeling, the people, like, the way they interact with art, it's like, it's not appealing to me. It makes it feel like I don't. And again, I guess as long as as long as you see the value in what you're learning, then I think it's totally fine. Because, like, I don't have to get the same, I don't have to see. And maybe I'm just biased in that with traditional education, if somebody goes for, like, an engineering degree, I, as a non-engineer, can still look at them and their skills and their knowledge and how they talk about the thing and what they're capable of doing and say, I see the value in that education, right? Because I'm viewing it through, like, a very capitalistic way, and, like, I can understand how it's useful. But sometimes with art school, I hate saying this because I love art and I think people should go to art school if you can afford it. But sometimes I feel like it's like I know you're doing art a lot and you talk about it a lot, but everything that I see coming from you, it's like I just don't understand. Like, I don't understand what it is you learned. I'm sure it is useful. Maybe it's more in the psychology realm and it's just like or philosophy realm, right? And people are learning how to think and appreciate and find their place in the world with art. Like, I think that could be super useful, and that would be a hard thing to explain, I guess, or not explain. Like, no one has to justify what they, certainly not to me. It's a Discord thing, I think, on Twitch, because it happens to other streamers I watch. Looking up what... Oh, gotcha. You'll reach this... Okay, yeah, it might be a Discord thing. Well, there are Twitch notifications that aren't on Discord. So if you have like the Twitch app. Happy Thursday, y'all. Happy Thursday to you too, Pumpkin Pie. Okay, so there's a scene that's another swampy forest with no green or no blue. Okay, let's do another one. I feel, you know what? Somebody new here is gonna have come in and be like, "Oh my goodness, this guy is the most elitist, full of himself person ever." Because like, here I was not trashing art school because again, it's just more like expressing confusion about it. And I don't know, I feel bad because like I really I do genuinely want to understand it more. Like, and I'm not talking about the art school like the you know, where you're learning the fundamentals, you're learning how to draw, you're, not that type, but more the conceptual art, and not concept art, but conceptual. Conceptual fine art. I'd love to know more. No blue. Yeah, no blue today. Last stream we did no green, so we ended up with this painting, which was very purple and blue. And so today I'm like, you know what? No blue. And I do realize that no blue is a little bit again, it's a little bit of a misnomer here because like purple obviously has blue in it, right? If you look at the RGB sliders for any of this has blue in it, right? If we move it down to 0, that's the color. So like all these colors have blue in them. No blue, yellow skies. Yeah, why not? Like red sky here, yellow sky here. Could be a white sky. Gray. And relatively, it could still look blue. Right? That kind of looks bluish. With a cool... Because you still get cool, right? You still have temperature. So you still have warm and cool versions of things. Right? So if I have an entire painting that's, bright orange and super saturated yellows, right? All these super crazy colors with basically zero blue. Right? And then you come in here over the top of it and you say, I'm just going to move this down here. Like, this looks like it could be blue, right? We could totally get away with a sky that this is this color. It feels, it could be overcast. It could be lots of things, right? That could be a blue sky. It's not super blue, right? Would the Northern Lights have blue in them? Well, I mean, yeah. Unless it was a pure... Well, so it depends on what we're talking about, right? If we're talking about appearing blue, then no, you could paint Northern Lights with, like, a green. But if you want to be, like, super clinical about it and say, like, just using the RGB sliders down here... Here, I'll show this. If you're just using the RGB sliders, if you turn blue to 0, then yeah, you're going to be hard-pressed to find any color that doesn't have any blue in it. I mean, there are colors without blue in it, right? But not many. I mean, I guess there are a lot of colors without blue, but like most colors that have any amount of gray in it at all and isn't purely saturated are going to have blue, right? That slider jumped up to 103 blues. 103 blues. That's not how you talk about color. This color has 173 reds and 152 greens and 0 blues. But no, once you start moving the slider this way, you start adding blue, right? Because it's adding the complementary color to put it more close to gray, right? And then at gray, you get like an even mix of blue. right? And depending on how dark it is, it's less and less, right? So the lighter it is, the more of all the colors it is, right? Because this is how light works, right? Like if you add more light, if you have no light at all, everything is 0, 0, 0, you have black. Once you start adding a little bit of red light, it starts to look a little bit red, but again, it's still very, very dim, right? So you start to add some red, more and more red light is going to make it look redder and redder, right? Conversely, if you go back to 0, 0 and you add a little bit of green light, right? It gets lighter and lighter green because there's more and more light, and light makes things brighter, right? But then, once you start mixing green and red, well, now you're getting into these like olive colors, right? And these yellows. If it's not very much light, it's not very yellow, but as it starts getting brighter, that yellow becomes yellower. This is equal parts red and green, right? So this is kind of the range. Oops, what did I just do there? That was not what I meant to do, right? So this is like equal parts red and green, right? So red and green light make yellow, right? That's why. So, but again, once you start graying off this yellow, well, now you're adding blue to it, gray, right? So anytime you have a grayer version of the red or green, you're gonna be in the blues. And so it's hard to not be working off just max saturation when you're talking about no blue. So yeah, I'm not actually going no blue. I'm just going, it feels like no blue. If you look at it and say that's blue, then that's what I don't want. RGB, yeah. The R number, the G number, and the B number. Exactly. Yep, it's RGB. That's how you see lights. Or that's how you see color. You have red, green, blue, cones and rods. I don't really know what the difference. I think is it the rods in your eyes see the color, and then the cones see the brightness? I don't actually know. But anyway, in combination, rods and cones, you see red, green, blue. That's why people can be like red-green colorblind, or rarely you see blue-green or the other versions of color blindness, or in some cases all of them, and they literally see in grayscale. Apparently that's a thing. I've never met anyone like that. Don't know of any cases, but I think it's possible. But that's how the eyes work, right? The eyes see in RGB. That's why when people say things like certain colors don't exist, that's kind of what they're talking about. But yeah, and key, yeah, the K is for black. You know what's really funny? So as somebody who occasionally plays Magic the Gathering, I always thought it was funny that like so like in Magic the Gathering they had to come up with color number or color letters, right? And B is for blue. Or no, it's not. B is for black, right? And so what is blue? And so they had to pick a different letter. And that's kind of, for the longest time, whenever I heard CMYK, I always assumed that K was black because it has a K in it, and B was already taken for blue. And so I like, oh, well, they just already had a letter for blue, and so they can't reuse B, so they have to use a different letter. So let's use K. I know that's not the reason, but that's what I always thought. My O are going to get longer. Are you learning things about color? But yeah, this is also why how would you use like opposite colors of each other, like blue and opposite of it? Well, that's easy, right? Because that gives you, when you're using opposites, it's allowing you, like, so okay, so let's I am, yeah. So here, and I don't want to be like it's easy. That's not really what I meant. But let's go back to what I just explained, right? When if I'm adding red, purely red, right? There's no other pigment in here other than, well, no other light than red, right? This is not pigment, it's light. So no other light than red light, right? Now, if I want, again, we've already established that if I want to add another color, like a green to this, let's just crank it up a bit, and it starts getting orange, and then more, and then as I add more and more green, it gets more and more yellow. If I want, if you look at these colors, you'll notice where they are on the color wheel, right? They're on this right-hand edge. They're all smashed up against the side, right? They're all super saturated, right? The second you want something less saturated, you're adding gray to it. Gray is an even mix of all light, right? Like it's balanced. So the second you start making something grayer, right here, for example, this orange, it's super close, but it's a little grayer, that has blue in it, right? So let's take the logical leap. What happens when you use blues and reds, right? Or blues and cyans, or sorry, reds and cyans. Well, you're doing that, exactly what I just said. You're allowing yourself to get in there and have a nice range of grays that you didn't have in this model, right? In this model, purple. Well, what I mean, no, well, opposites, right? I'm trying to think opposite colors, right? Contrasting colors. So I guess orange and blue, red, technically like red cyan is opposite in light, right? So the point I'm trying to make though is that when you're using opposites, what you're actually allowing yourself to do is get all those colors that you can't actually get in here, right? This is like paint out of the tube look. Once you start mixing in, or moving the slider over here and getting these nuanced colors that are all much more interesting, that's because you're adding, right? Here you have all these interesting blues in here. It doesn't look blue, but that's what's happening is you're adding in that blue, right? If you were mixing these paints, well, yeah, again, this is using RGB, right? Because yeah. But even then, the equivalent would still be that you're mixing the opposites in. Even in on a palette, you're still going to have to add some version of a gray or some neutral color to neutralize it to get these more nuanced colors, right? Yeah, color mixing is, I believe, subtractive, light is additive, which I always felt those should be backwards, but whatever. I always felt mixing paint should be additive, but I understand light anyway. It's but yeah, so the answer is opposites are nice to use because they give you all that good juicy nuance, right? If I made a painting with purely red paint and purely this paint, again, assuming or as only this light, assuming I was using light, right? And I wasn't mixing, you're never gonna get, right? I'm never gonna get nice nuanced colors. These are all crazy bright. So when in doubt, add gray. Because gray, or in this case black, can help get you some more nuanced colors. Actually, black is pretty... Actually, does black work that way? Actually, I don't know. I know grays work that way. Maybe black doesn't. I guess when in doubt, add gray, not black. add gray because it has blue in it. Sometimes black just works. Yeah, maybe. That didn't work very well for me. It was keeping it very saturated. This, though... Can I get more into this corner is the question. I don't think I can. No, I can't. So if I go up here, I'll get a wider range. Okay, that makes sense. And if I want up here, I'd have to get, like, this brightness. So adding white, yeah, basically allowing yourself to add gray. Or in this case, just blue. Blue would work too, right? Literally take a blue and mix it in a little bit to these colors and get the new colors. And then you can use those new colors to get grayer versions of those. So now you have all these nice, look at these like vibrating colors. Anyway, this is not what you guys care about, probably. Not like a whole tube of it. Black goodness, yeah. I always use black to darker colors. I recently was told it's not a good thing to do. Yeah, I don't think, I don't know. I think if you're doing traditional painting, I don't know. I don't know enough about traditional painting. A lot of people say not to, and I think part of it is because, well, there's a few reasons, I think, but a good reason, in my opinion, is that just when colors get really dark, you can't really tell, right? Like, what color is that? Do you know? Do you know if that is green? Or is it green, right? This one's green, that one's red, this one's blue. Like, when I zoom out, they all look the same, right? If I put them right next to each other, you can't tell where one starts hardly and the next one begins. So like super dark colors, they all just look dark, right? All right, because they just don't have much color. They don't have much light. So there's an argument to like use dark colors like that, and then when you're brightening them, well, now the pigments are mixing, right? You start getting like brighter colors, and then you can get that nuance back in there. I don't know. I don't think it's bad to use pure black, but I do think for mixing colors, I don't know. Add brown. Yeah, a dark brown. Yeah. I was struggling when during grad paintings, teacher said no darkening with black to get darker versions of the colors. It was a struggle to figure it out with very dark blue. Yeah, dark blue, dark brown, dark green, dark blue, dark red. If you mix them all together, you get a dark brown, and you can use a dark brown-ish, dark brownish. I don't know. I'm not great at mixing colors in physical paint. I haven't done enough traditional painting to really get, you know, any high level with it. Okay, tea time. Cyber Knight Sparrow says, I get away with it all the time in self-portraits because, and I dark and have black hair and dark skin. Gotcha. Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, but again, pretty much every painting, right? Even if you do environments, every painting's gonna have dark spots in it, right? That's like, you're gonna want to find those areas of light and dark, and even in the darkest, you know, nooks and like up your nose, you know, where it's really dark because no light's getting up there. You can use a little bit of, you know, super dark red, you know, that just basically looks black, but it has a little bit of warmth to it, which would make sense because any light that manages to get up there is probably warm light, because a lot of light tends to be warm. Black depends on what you're aiming for. Yeah. Yep. Color is relative. Fun times. I don't know. I find that's why it's just, to me, it's just easier to think of color in terms of art, or in terms of light, of RGB. Even if I'm painting in pigment, I know this is kind of from a naive position because I don't really paint with pigment. So I don't actually know. I've painted some with pigment, but I think thinking of it in terms of lighting first, it feels like it helps you make choices about what should be there. Why is it relative? Because something looks... Here, let me bust out the color wheel. Because something will look and feel Here, green strawberry illusion. You've probably seen this. This is like the classic red strawberry illusion, right? Your brain, because your brain isn't seeing pigment, right? Yeah. I think the Gray on the Sidewalk's a better example actually than this. But like your brain knows these are red strawberries. You can see red, but there's no red in here. There's no red hitting your eyeballs unless this is a bad color corrected version that is red. No, see, these red strawberries are not red. They're blue gray. But if you, it's relative because your brain is smart, right? It's relative because your brain still understands what it's seeing and it does the work for you to interpret it. It's when you see something, you're not saying, I actually see a person in a red shirt. You're saying, I see a person in a red shirt under a slightly orangey yellow sky sun with a little bit of blue light on him, right? That red might not actually look super red. It might be cast with a blue light or an orange light, and your brain still understands just how red it is, right? Just like strawberries with a really intense green light on them still looks red, but in this case, they're not, right? If you were to look through a clear red plastic, window or something, or like a sheet of plastic cellophane or whatever, if it's a blue thing you're looking through, everything's going to be tinted that color of blue. But you can still tell the relative difference between colors. You know that this is a white plate, right? You know that this is a white table. How do you know this is a white table? It's very clearly blue table. Well, no, because a blue table would look relatively more blue, right? It would look like, probably blue or green or something, right? It would look like that or something, right? Wouldn't look the same as the white because relatively they're all being shifted, right? They're being shifted up and they're being shifted down. Right? So yeah, anyway. No, I saw a bit of red. No, I don't think I did though. I think it was a perfectly gray. At its grayest, there is maybe a bit of like this will read as red, even though it's 0, 0. It's perfectly gray. But anyway, and the reason that we say there is no red here is I mean there is, right? There is red. You can see in the RGB slider. There is still light hitting your eyes. That is red. It's not enough to shift the hue into red, but it is enough red. Am I still live? I don't know. Uh-oh, did I just crash? What's happening? I think my Discord broke. No, I'm still here. No worries, sharing now. Yeah, so stream is still good on my end. Okay. For some reason I'll say let's look up sidewalk shadow. Here's a good example. What color is the sidewalk? Right? Here's a shadow of two people. Well, let's color pick it. Let's color pick the shadow right here. Boom, it's blue. Well, no, we know it's a gray sidewalk. Well, what color is this? Oh, well, that's a yellow, kind of. It's a warm yellow, but it's it's still in the yellow family. So, like, is the sidewalk this color or is it this color? Our brain knows, if I just ask you what color is this, you don't know. But when you have it in context, you understand, right? You understand that this is the sidewalk in the sun, this is the sidewalk in the shadow. And like, if it was less in the shadow, it would be it would be a different color. And if it was too bright, it might look purely like this, right? And so like, clearly it's somewhere, it's a gray, right? You know it's a gray because in the light, it's not pure white. And in the light, it's not pure black. And so your brain stands it. Yeah, and there's like a brownish version. Yeah, and some of the colors in here are gonna have some browns. Like there's gonna be lots of colors because our brain is interpreting it. And so, and why, to me, it's more important to understand why this is blue so that when you want to paint something, you can say, I can make this sidewalk the right color, even though I don't know exactly what color I need to pick. I know that there's going to be, it's a gray, right? It's a gray sidewalk with a little bit of blue light, and it's shining on top of it, right? So here's our blue light on our gray sidewalk. Let's color pick it. Here's a new color. So yeah, it's the blue sky. And so this is the color I might paint. And did I get it perfectly? No, right? This one's a little more, mine is a little more blue than that. But I got there through mixing light, right? I got there through understanding. I started out with a gray, right? So here's a gray. We start out with a gray. And actually, I do this all the time. Yeah, let's do a little mini painting here, right? So here's our gray. Maybe I'll make a patch of light here, right? So here's a patch of light. Well, again, I know the light is a little bit yellow warm, so I'm going to paint the little yellowish warm. I know this area here is going to be in shadow. And let's say our sky is, instead of blue, right? Instead of having a blue sky up here, this is what it would look like if it were blue. What if it were a pink sky, right? It's a sky that doesn't exist, right? Just a very pink sky. And that's going to shine into the shadows in here, right? And so now we have a sidewalk that is affected by a pink sky, right? And if I did my whole image like this under a pink sky, everything would get this little pink glow to it. Now, would it actually be pink? Not everything, right? What if I had a green leaf? You know, here's a green leaf. Nope, let's make it a little darker. Here's a green leaf. What if it also had a pink sky on it? Well, okay, there. Now it's no longer pink or green. It's kind of a grayish yellow, right? So now we have a gray-yellow that's being represented as green, and now our brain is like, oh, this looks like green. Why does this look green? It's not green. Well, it looks green because our brains understand that green with this little bit of yellow, actually also just because it still isn't that pink, right? But like, this is going to look more orange, even though it's still not really orange. Like, you get what I'm saying. So I guess the point I'm making is that our brains understand lighting, and it's seeing the color as if the lighting wasn't colored, right? So if you look through red light, your brain's like, I'm going to pretend that there isn't a red light. I'm just going to try to understand the colors. And so if the person's wearing a white shirt and you shine a red light on them, your brain's like, I know that's not actually a red shirt. That's still a white shirt. And so you end up seeing white. Brains are cool and weird. But it is definitely one of the reasons why I always end up going on like a ramble about psychology and how we perceive things, because that is what a lot of art is about, is trying to understand the difference between what you see and how you depict it, because they're not the same, right? You might say, I see a red shirt, but if you just put red on the canvas, it's not going to look like what you see. Ooh, remember the whole white and gold versus blue and black? Yeah, exactly. There was a really cool animation that someone made where it showed a girl dancing or something in like a dress, or it was like a little animation of, what's the dance? I don't remember. But it was an animation of a girl in, maybe it wasn't animated, I don't know. Maybe it was just a still image. But it was both versions of it. And then they just had a filter of a blue, of a strong blue light, and then a washed out light. And they showed just how like it could be either, right? Now we know the answer to the mysterious black and blue dress versus white and gold dress. We know the answer of what it actually was because somebody found the dress. they photographed it. We know what the dress is. We can find it. But it could, like, there is a, if you know enough about lighting, you can understand how if you had a strong blue light on a white dress, it could look like that, right? Gold could be affected by blue, and white could be affected by blue, and it could hue shift, and that's totally normal. So it's not like it was something of, oh, people are stupid. No, this is just how our brains understand stuff, and there wasn't enough context for us to know, right? It'd be like saying, if I took just these two colors, here's one color, and here's another color, and I said, what color is this sidewalk? And you're like, this is a sidewalk? How do I know what color this sidewalk is? I don't know the conditions. It could be a very dark sidewalk with a super bright light on it, with a yellow light. It could be a dark blue sidewalk with a super bright, yellow light, right? Or a yellow white light. Or it could be a gray sidewalk, right? It could be somewhere in the middle with like both light and shadow on it. Or it could be probably like a green sidewalk with like a certain color of red light on it that's just dark enough that makes it look like this, right? Like there's lots of ways that you could get colors to look like this. And sometimes you just need more context of the whole scene to say, oh, it's very clear that there's a sun here shining on this, and then there's a shadow here, right? We know the context now. So yeah. Like, I think while it's not super complicated, it is tricky, I think, to wrap your head around it because it's still going against our brains, right? Our brains have lived our whole lives saying that's a red shirt, that's a gray sidewalk, that's red brick, right? Our whole life is going around and naming things the way we interpret it, not the way we see it. And then you have to paint something the way you see it so that they can interpret it the way that way you want their brains to. And now there's this disconnect, right? How do I communicate to you in a way that your brain will interpret it? Well, I have to do that not by how I see it, it's how I want you to see it to interpret it. Yeah, exactly. We're creating illusions. Yeah, that's what we do as artists. And so you have to understand the illusions to some degree. And the better you understand them, the better you can create them so that the other person can then interpret it. Yeah, I love it. I think it's one of the coolest things about art, honestly. We're basically magicians. Not the real magical kind, from fantasy, but we are like well, minus the stage, but yeah, we're like performer illusionists, right? We create the perception that something's happening so that you can interpret what we want you to interpret. And honestly, it's super fitting because as a kid, I loved magic. I still like it. I like magic, like Penn and Teller type magic, illusion magic, sleight of hand. I love that stuff because it's doing the exact thing that I like about art, right? Maybe I like maybe the reason I like art is because it's doing what I like about magic. I don't know, but it's making your brain understand something, and to some degree, this is also why analogies are cool, right? Because you're saying here's this idea and here's another idea, and I want you to understand the middle of them, right? Like I'm gonna make an analogy to pull you into a new way of thinking, and it's really is trying to understand sort of how to communicate when you're not speaking the same language, kind of, right? You're trying to like find a common shared language, and sometimes that's just like that happens in the brain, right? I might say one word but you hear another, That works for me as long as I know. Yeah, they fake movement. Yeah. Animators, yeah, animators do it. Yep. It's very magical. Yeah, I mean, it's very. I mean, again, it's funny. It's like the end result feels magical, but when you dig under the surface, it's actually the opposite of magical, right? It's oftentimes it's science, it's psychology, it's sometimes math. Like it's oftentimes it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's cool. The more I practice, the more I like to apply light to make surface look 3D. It's awesome. Yeah, like, yeah, exactly. Knowing that if I add darkness down here to the bottom of these whatevers, that it's gonna look more 3D, right? If I add some darkness in here, that it'll make this look more 3D, and some in here. And just like that, my entire scene looks more 3D. And understanding how and why that works, it's not just like, ooh, memorize that you want to put darks here and memorize that you put lights here. It really does come from a hopefully more of a place of understanding. Anyway, that's my art ramble, my art lesson of the day. Sugar, spice, and everything nice with a dash of chemical X. I don't know what that's from. What is that? I've heard the sugar and spice and everything nice, but I didn't know what's the last part of it. Is that actually how the saying goes? And if so, what is it from? The whole thing is Powerpuff Girls? Okay. Powerpuff Girls. Gotcha. The day I realized how to make clothes fold in grayscale, it did feel like magic. Yeah, I would imagine. Learning how to, yeah. You're still terrible at it? Yeah. Yeah, but you understand the idea, right? You understand the theory behind it, which to me that's kind of, and I guess also when understanding a bit of the idea behind it is also what makes you know how to go and find out the answer, right? You may not know the specifics, you don't necessarily know the secret recipe, but you understand the basics to where you can go and do a Google search, right? And that to me is one of the strengths of learning about the fundamentals. Not even learning them, just learning enough about what they are and what, where the words to know how to Google. Like, you can go and do a fabric study and learn more. You can go do a perspective study and then figure out how to draw complicated curves of fabric in perspective. And then you can figure out how to light it. I just always just keep the tea bag in the tea, but then as I'm drinking it, sometimes I'll like drink the tea bag, just like the string. Okay. I didn't mean to. I just, like, drank the string of the tea. Okay. I like this painting, but I don't know. Ooh, this is feeling very Andres Roca now, which I don't really like because as much as I like him as an artist, I don't want to just copy him. So maybe I'll try. Ooh, I know what I'll do. I'll make this a bit more. I'll make it more like a gate. Citadel. With hanging down stalactites. The red thorn roots kind of look like a dragon. Yeah, they kind of do. I can see that a little bit. It's like Southern Lights. Oh, this one? The one I'm working on? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, this one's very green. Or not green, sorry. It's very, I mean, it does have green. If we go, oh, redder. Redder and oranger. I don't know the difference between the Southern Lights and the Northern Lights. Aren't they both just greenish? Do they actually look distinctly different? I mean, I assume they probably do to people who know a lot about them, but... Nature Thorn Dragons? Nice. Nature Thorn Dragons. Trying to make this really, really thin so that we can feel like it's far away. Flesh vines, oh no. That's pretty creepy sounding. But yeah, I could see it. It could totally be kind of weird fleshy colors or something. Yeah, it could, there's lots of things it could be. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with this. Like, do I want there to be something over here? Like a cute little house just sitting on the ledge here? Maybe that's what I do. Maybe there's a little house, and this house is very red. It's like a little barn. I wonder if I'm painting barns because I've been playing so much Fields of Mystria. It's been a really good game. It's very Stardew Valley-esque. Lots of building up your town, trying to earn money, starting with very little. It's funny, I think like a year and a half ago, or like 2 years ago, I don't think I had ever played a cozy farming sim before. If you even call, I don't even know if you call that a farming sim, but like a cozy farming game, right? Like Harvest Moon, Stardew Valley, Animal Crossing, those kind of. I've never even played one, and then all of a sudden, I'm like kind of hooked on the genre. It's enjoyable. Yeah, this does give a little bit of Northern Light vibes here. Try Rune Factory. That's what people. A lot of people said Rune Factory. Yeah, is it a good game? I've never played it. I might have to play it next. Last time you played one of those was in elementary school. Yeah, I had played one about that time as well. But then, yeah, no, they're really enjoyable. I also find, funny enough, they have a level of technical skill and decision making and strategy that is, it really hits the sweet spot for me. Like you obviously don't have to, right? You don't have to play them in a way that is hardcore or anything. But trying to figure out things, how to like maybe not break the system, but you know, you're trying to how to make the most of what they give you, right? They give you a bunch of tools and mechanics, and you're like, I want to make use of this, right? Because everything has sort of a cost benefit to it, right? Oh, this thing costs this much money, but it restores this much. is it worth it? Is it not? Should I sell it? Should I consume it? Like, is it, am I gonna get more out of it than I put in? And it's sort of this I don't know, it's just a lot of fun. So yeah, I've been very addicted to that lately. Although I don't really know if I like Stardew Valley or this game more. I liked both of them. I think I liked Stardew Valley's way of tracking achievements a little better, and tracking like the things you can and have done. This game feels like there's a ton, but you don't really know what it is because it feels like it's very walled off in a way, and like you don't know until like the information just isn't out there as much. You save at opening and mine jewelry. Yeah, see, like if I so in Fields of Mystria, one of the things I learned you can do is you can sell all your furnishings right when you start. So you could, in theory, not that you wouldn't want to sell your bed, right? But you can sell your table, your chairs, and those things give you some quick cash. And then you could buy crops day one and buy a lot more. Like there are ways to speed things on that I just never would have thought of. I guess that technically it would be day two. But yeah, no, there's anyway. So there's some really cool things and like that make me want to do a new playthrough, even though I haven't gotten very far in my current playthrough, which I really like. I like that as you learn, you're like, oh my gosh, I could have done it so much better. Sell your kitties? Well, it's funny, like, they give you all these nice things at the start, trying to make it feel cozy, and then you're like, oh my goodness, I could have sold these, or like you learn that crops don't disappear off the ground, and you're like, I could run around every few days and harvest all the crops and just leave them there until I need them because I don't have time in the day to run back and grab them. So you start like really just like maximizing time and finding little and again, I think also Kath pointed this out, and I think she's right, that in the game that I'm playing, Tales of Mystria, there just isn't that much content. Like Stardew Valley has tons of videos on it. There's like optimal ways to, get super rich quick, there really isn't that much stuff, I don't think. I haven't really looked into it. I looked at like one thing, but it was all like basic stuff the game tells you, and it's like, okay, this is good if you didn't read the game, but it's not actually giving you like player found strategy, and so yeah, anyway, I've really been enjoying it. So what am I doing right now? Right now I'm building I'm funny, actually, I'm building a giant mountain. I'm using form and shape to build it in a way that is interesting. I try to get pond so I can put all my fish in it and then get ducks. Yeah, I've never played that game. It looks really cool. Thanks. Wait, the painting or the game? Sorry, I don't really know what we're talking about. I just got confused. I think this looks kind of cool. I will say these challenges of not using a certain color is really nice for learning how to use grays. The painting looks cool. Okay, thanks. I appreciate it. I don't know Stardew Valley and similar stuff. I'm very much lost in the corner of this conversation. Yeah, no worries. It's kind of sounds like we've all played different games that are kind of similar, but they're all different enough that you can't talk specifics. So it's not a very productive conversation for sure.
we can try to shift back to art. Speaking of which, if anybody wants to share, I would love seeing what people are working on. Kind of make this feel like this thing is like a cave, or it has like an overhang here. So like now there's an overhang. This thing gets real dark underneath. Not real dark, but pretty dark. And then this also is pretty dark. And then there's gonna be harsh shadows under here. So I'm trying to think that now I have an idea of like direction of lighting, right? So now we have the light coming in from up here. So it's gonna be just glazing the top of here. And go a little brighter. And then down here we have more wheat or whatever. It's gonna be like a wheat field. Little bits of lines and silhouettes breaking those lines. I like this one. And then this one has, yeah, giant stones. I feel like this just feels like a place where you would want to like explore. You're like, oh, I want to go under here. Maybe there's like a little river back here. Something. This might be my, I don't know, I'm liking this painting. And no blue, right? Even though the sky is gray, and it kind of feels like it could be a little blue. No blue today. Maybe there's some... Do we see the underside of that? Probably not. Okay. Let's before we vote, shall we do the daily Wordle and connections and all that? Let's do that. We sometimes take a while on the connections, so let's try the connections. You know what's funny? When I'm off stream, I do the connections super quick. I feel like I've been killing it, but on stream, I typically try to wait until I have, until I know what like the categories are. So I try to like solve it all at once, and it's hard. I think it's just too much brain cells on stream. So yeah, I'm gonna do the daily connections. It's a word puzzle where there's 4 groups of 4. If you've never done this before, you basically try to find 4 groups of 4 that all are connected through some common theme. It could be a synonym. It could be it could be like a fill in the blank word, like blank something, right? So it could be like pizza crust or pizza something else. Although it could also be like core, crust, mantle, and Or that could be a red herring, and that's not actually the layers of the Earth, right? So what if we do this then? What if we say these are not together and said crust, cheese, toppings? Is there like a pizza one? Crust, cheese, toppings, sauce. So that's pizza, right? So we can just lock that one in. That's gonna be the, okay, that's green. Case. A case. A 6-pack. A growler, things that beer comes in. A beer comes in a case. A 40. That's not beer. That's a it's liquor. Alcohol. You can get I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna be it. Midriff, mantle, torso. Is mant core, midriff, torso, trunk? Is that like your torso, your midsection, central section of the body? Okay, young. I'm just locking them in. I'm not doing it in reverse order. We should have done it today though. Case 6-pack 40 growlers still are there. These are things you can have alcohol in. But I don't know if that's right. Young, mantle, bonds, trout. Bonds. Mantle. Is it like a name? Is this like Mickey Mantle? Mickey Young? Is that a name? Mickey Bonds? Barry Bonds? Barry Young? Barry Trout? Barry Mantle? I don't know. Something Young. Is there a person with the last name Trout? What's a mantle? A mantle is a thing above like a fireplace. It's also a type of like a... Could it be like a shirt? No, I think it's a thing above a fireplace. I think the last category... So let's just try it. Growler 6-pack, case 40. Okay, so these are units of beer. I don't know if they're units, but maybe if you're American, they're units. I don't know. Americans like to call these units. Apparently, these are units now. Thanks, America. No, a 6-pack is... I guess we do call it... We measure it by the pack instead of the amount of beer in it. Anyway. I feel like a growler should not be a unit. A case shouldn't be a unit either, because cases have different amounts of... Anyway, this is stupid. Young Bonds. I'm not sure what this is. This is probably last names. Yeah, I think this is gonna be like James Bonds. Barry Bonds. Barry. I don't think James Bonds isn't gonna be it. It could be Barry Bonds. That's the only Bonds I know. Or is that Bonds? I don't know how you say that word. I don't know what this is. I don't know. Baseball greats. Oh, literally, it is Mickey Mantle, Barry Bonds are both baseball players. Okay. I knew a little bit of the words that they were going for, but I didn't know Trout or Young. Never heard of those people. But I did know these two. So, that makes sense. They're just... Okay, that was an easy one. Now let's do the Wordle. The Wordle. Trout. I like the... No, that had... paint. Let's try paint as a starter word. We need a good word with a T. T... R-U... C-K. Truck. Track is a better... No, we already have that. Truck. Trek. Nah, we'll do truck. Paint truck. What about paint... brush? No, we already have it. We need a T, though. Rush. Paintrush. Paint. Is there a way that is there a painting tool or implement that has a T in it that we could do with the 5 letters? I don't know, let's just do truck. Hail. Well, we already have A and I used, so we don't want to reuse the A and the I. We could do like... Wow. Oh. Trowel. What about trowel? Not trail. We could do trowel. I don't even know if I spell trowel. I don't think it is. I think trowel has O-E-L at the... Anyway. Trow... I don't know. I like truck. Truck's a good word. Nope, it wasn't truck. Okay, so now we have something, something, TY. What about like... Gosh, this is kind of hard. What about like... Blank TH. Cloth. No, it can't be cloth. Sloth. What about sloth? Okay, it's not... Okay, the T goes here. Sta... Stomes, downs, stowed. Stowed? Stow. I want to, like... Stowed? No. Is stowed a word? Stow? With an E? Stomp. We can't do stomp. S-T-O. It doesn't have to be STO, but the T does have to be second, so I don't know what else it could be. I think it has to be ST. Stow is a word? I don't know. I don't think so. If it is, it's probably not going to be the answer. Stove. Stove. No, it can't be storm. I think it's stove. I'm pretty sure. Stow. Yeah, stow is a word, but I don't think that's... I don't feel like it would be the answer, but let's try stove. It's not stove. Oh my god. Stow. That's what the heck's... Stowy? Stowy. Stowy. The answer is... No, Stood. What about stood? Maybe there's 2 O's. That'd be a tricky one. 2 O's? It's probably... It feels like a good guess. I keep saying that and then I'm wrong. I feel like stood. I don't like it because it's the past tense of stand. Which I feel like past tense are not fair words. It's your call. Well, if I can think of a better word that doesn't use a double O, I would go for it. Stood. Stoof. Stewy. No, stoob. Stobby. I don't know what else that would be. Let's go for it. Okay, good. It stood. Dang, that was a hard one I thought that was a hard one. Like, I don't think I did any wasted words. I think I didn't repeat any that I know of. And we knocked out a lot of consonants early, but we still struggled. I probably didn't narrow it down as well as I could have, but I actually do like starting Wordle like this with not getting them, because then you don't get stuck in like for example, if we would have done stove at the first, right? If we would have started with stove and I would have had STO, I could have then been stomp, stout, storm, right? Like stork, right? And who knows how long it would have been before I got to stood, because I'm only eliminating 2 more constants at the same time, right? So I kind of like eliminating constants at the start if I can. So yeah, that turned out good. Okay, back to art. Art time. 2 of the same letters are evil. Yeah, it's not too bad. Generally, you can eliminate most of the vowels. Because, you know, there's like 5 vowels and 6 guesses. So as long as you eliminate a vowel each time, on the last guess, you'll like, one of them's a repeat. And there's not that many that are going to be repeat, other than like E and O's. I don't know. Wordle's not too bad. It's a pretty chill game. It's pretty hard to fail, but when you do, you feel like you were cheated. But yeah. Okay, let's do voting. I'm gonna make a straw poll. Actually, no, let's vote straight in Twitch chat. Let's do that. /vote. Nope, /poll. Okay, there we go. Let's vote. Oh, wait, hold on. The letters are confusing. Let me just move this up here and go. One, 2, 3, 4. There. Make your vote. Cast your vote. All votes will be counted. Unless there's a clear winner, and then we'll just go with the winner, and we won't wait till the end. All votes will be counted unless they're not. That's how it'll work. No, I really like these paintings. These were fun today. Not painting with blue is a rarity for us. You failed Wordle a lot? I mean, I think if you're maybe if you're not like a native speaker, or I think if you just don't allow yourself to repeat vowels or words, like if you've already used an L, don't use an L again. Right? You might have the perfect word, but if it's not going to be the answer, don't guess. And just find a better word. I don't know. I feel like that, as long as you do that and don't repeat, I don't know. I find it hard to fail. It can be tricky where you just can't think of a word. But generally, I find it's just typically the way that I lose is when I'm impatient, where like I won't be thinking of an entire suffix of words or a whole cluster of words, and then I'll be like, okay, well, don't know what it is. I'm gonna try and help myself by guessing something else, and then I find out that like, oh my gosh, there was all these other endings, and then you wasted guesses. That's what happens for me. Now, connections, I fail that all the time. I think I have like an 80% success rate on that, and that's with you guys helping me. So, it's a lot lower than that. Okay, I'm gonna thumbnail archive. I'm gonna put these in Discord. Yeah, non-native English speaker. Sometimes my mind is like, no English for you today. Yeah. I think, yeah. Also, if you just don't know the words, like I tried to do the German Wordle the other day. I just don't know enough German words to even know. Like I can start mixing and matching prefixes and suffixes, but even then I still don't know prefixes and suffixes in German. And so like I'm guessing a lot of things that aren't words. Like I've done it a couple times, but it's hard. I think I have like a less like a 50% success rate with the German Wordle, where like there's just a lot of days I can't possibly begin to get it because I will never know the word, and it's not an obvious prefix suffix combo. Like in English, for example, you could do like OKE words that end in that, like oak, like a broke, stoke, right? Or you could try, words that end in ACK, right? Like track, black, right? Frack. All those words are things you could try. Um, but if it's a word like a line, LAIG, or cloak, yeah, OA, well, that's OAK. But yeah, exactly. There's lots of words like cloak or croak, or, that end in that suffix. So even if you didn't know that croak was a word, words can end in OAK, right? So you can try other words like it. Um, so that's a way that you can do well on those without actually knowing the word, is by thinking in terms of prefixes and suffixes. But again, some words don't quite work, right? Like align, ALIGN. That's not like, are there other words that end in IGN? Sign, but that's a 4-letter word, right? There's not really any other words like that I'm aware of. And so if that was the answer and you didn't know that word as a non-native speaker, you're never going to guess it, right? How would you? You'd have to try just every letter combination. And so that's where it can get really tricky. But yeah. Yeah, non-native Wordle is extremely hard. No Thorn Dragon today. That's okay. Which one's winning? Three. Three is kind of, yeah. It's not surprising though that one's winning. It's kind of just a nice one. Yeah, we can always bring these back for another stream. Oh, poll ended. Oh, it's over. Okay, number 3 literally won. Perfect. We will save this. I didn't realize the poll has ended. Yeah, I think this one's nice. Are you saying number 3 is nice to look at, or the Thorn Dragon's nice to look at? Because I think both, actually. Yeah, I think number 3, though, especially when I take off my glasses, it's the only one that reads like a landscape. Number 1 kind of also, but the other ones don't have as good of depth and values. This one just, it fits, right? There's I don't know. I think these are just fun environments to paint. It follows the most classic compositional things that I use, sort of tried and true methods where you have just like light to dark. Although in this case we do have a lot of, direct sunlight shining in, which makes the foreground is all bright. But it could be, for example, very dark, and that would just be your classic light to dark pattern. And then the sunlight up here would just, if that were to go away, right, this would be like a medium color. And then suddenly you have just like a, again, very light to dark. It's a very simple layout. I think the only thing different here is that the underhang is sort of has a little bit of careful value control or will to show that it's an underhang. So some bounce light will get in here. Maybe we'll get some reds. Stuff like that. I'm also not quite sure how dark I want to get back here. Right, we could go really dark. I don't think I want to do this, but this is just me testing. What if we went really dark back here? Eh. I don't think that would work unless these also had some really dark shapes. Or not really dark, but kind of dark. And we could go that way. Right, this is a direction we could go. But no, I don't think so. Maybe not yet, anyway. Maybe we'll get there as we start pushing the colors around. So I think what I'm going to focus on is trying to make these rocks look three-dimensional. So kind of like I was doing with the shadows here, I do want to push in a little bit into the darks here. Earlier, before you asked if anyone had any new art. Ooh, I did. Oh, I like it. It's a cat person. Traditional cat person. Cat ears. I like it. How do you find painting portraits straight from the front? Do you find that easier, or do you find it easier to turn the head at a, like, 45-degree angle? I've always struggled with painting head-on, or drawing in real life head-on portraits. I always felt like it was a struggle to, like, get the eyes the same size and shape and aligned. Whereas if you do it at an angle, they're just different shapes inherently, so it's... I feel like you can get away with more. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Oh, a wolf person, not a cat person. Sorry, a wolf person. I don't know the difference. All I know is they both have ears. Depends, I can show the difference. Okay. I'd like to see it. Yeah, I'm pretty much a noob when it comes to painting portraits. I think I can kind of do okay, but I don't have enough. I basically have to figure it out as I do it. I don't have much experience to like know what the pitfalls are and how to avoid them. I just run straight into the problems, and then hopefully I can figure it out and fix it later. And then here, maybe we go like this back here. It's like a little bit of light. And then this can drop off. See, if I do that, do you mind that my side profiles get scuffed? Mind you, oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no, I don't mind if they. Oh, you said mind you, not do you mind? Yeah, no, yeah, I get it. Everybody struggles at different things, and yeah, sometimes, yeah, sharing work that you felt like wasn't your best work is tough, for sure. I feel like I can relate because I paint live, and some days you definitely have things that are not your favorites, you know? Like, I'm not in really in... I mean, I am in control of what I'm painting, but sometimes the outcome is a little bit not what I wanted because again, I'm trying new things, and anytime you try a new thing, what do I say? You're a beginner. Right? By definition, you're a beginner if you've never done it. And yeah, beginners aren't they fail a lot. That's part of that comes along with it. And so I try to have that expectation that it's okay to try new things and not do well, because that's part of what trying them is. You have a high chance of not doing well. You should obviously try to do well, but again, there's a realism there, a realistic expectation. Adding little shapes in here. Could maybe do like an overhang here as well. I don't actually know if this will look good, so I'm going to make a new layer. So even on this shape, we can still have overlapping shapes. Like, it doesn't have to be a perfect gradient. Hmm. Trying to just figure out what I want to do with this tippy top thing. This pyramid up here. Do I want it to just go up past the horizon? Probably. So not past the horizon, sorry, past the edge of the canvas. But I'm going to soften it up here. So see, down here I'm making this very hard edge, but I don't want a super hard edge going straight up here. I mean, I guess I could. I don't know. That's actually a thing I have to play around with and figure it out. I think having a little bit of softness there, though, works. And then I'm bringing down... So here's another compositional thing, right? I had this line here. I liked this form change right here. And so I'm thinking, what if I have this line? I want more contrast right here, right? I could make it darker to add more contrast, but that's not going to make sense with values, right? So the other way is to add up the contrast by changing this to be darker or lighter. So I'm bringing down the lightness just a little bit so that we get that shape to intersect. And we could even do something like that back here, where we put little shapes back here as well. That way these shapes continue back behind. And we can have some more shapes back here as well. And then we get some of this down here. Fields. So now, I'm trying to figure out, do I put like rocks up here? I think I do. I think I want little rocks on here. But I also don't want too many shapes, right? Because this is supposed to be like the smooth, flat area that our eye rests on, right? Like, this is the rest zone for our eyes. Right, so I think we can have some shapes in here, like this stuff, right? We have little bits of rocks. Now I'm trying to make... This is me practicing with small shapes now. So we have lots of big shapes. Now I want some smaller shapes. Right along the edges here. I don't know. Kind of like that. Maybe these shapes back here could be more interesting as well. Very spiky. I don't know. Lots of little spikes. I don't want it too spiky, especially back here, actually. In fact, we could probably even have some of the clouds. Actually, some of this probably can come down a bit more. Oh, okay. I'll link the message so you can see the difference. Mind you. Oh, let's take a look. This is... You linked the Discord channel. Not the image. No text channels. No, I can't see this one. It's asking me to sign in, even though I'm already signed in. You have to make sure you copy the image link and not the channel link. The first one you did, it has to end in .jpg, right? So see the first link that you posted, Asia? How it says attachments blah 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 .jpg? Whereas yours, the second link says discord.com/channels. It needs to say discord.com/attachments. You keep messing it up. No, it's fine. It's fine. Just when you do it this next time, pay close attention to what you're doing. That way, when it works, you can remember that process. Or try to. I know easier said than done, but... trying to think, do I want additional shapes here? I don't... We could go like that. That's kind of cool. No, this changes the shape too much. Yeah, this makes it just go off the... This would be cool if we extended the canvas, I guess. This isn't bad, though. You're not going to spam the chat with long links? Well, that's okay. Long links are okay. Not much we can do about it. Back in the day, you used to be able to remove things, but... or remove the links, but now you can't. Also, what if this is like a big castle back here? Some megalithic structure back here. Look at that. That's a structure and a half. Or half of a structure, because it looks like it's ruined. A ruined structure. We could totally put like a campfire under here, maybe? What about like this? That's not really how a campfire looks, but... Oh, burning embers just crackling here. I mean, I don't know why you'd have a fire here. It's very dry. What if we put some people, though, in here? Ooh. So if this is the water's edge... Hold on. Got an idea. An idea is brewing. So if this is the water's edge, what are these people doing here? They're under this overhang. They're setting up camp a little bit. Maybe there's okay. I'm gonna do one of those classic pop-up tents. Is that what you call it? Yeah, classic, maybe not pop-up tent, but like a classic tent, very simple. Simple classic tent shape. So I'm going to find references here. I'll show you the reference that I'm finding. Like this. Basically a triangle in the front, some non-triangle shape on the side. Could even just be a triangular tent. Something like this, right? Just something super simple. So yeah, that's basically what I'm going for here. Something like that. Probably red though, because again, no blue. We've said no blue. So we want to match the so this is how I draw. So the base of it is square. So here's and here's my I'll walk you through my thought process because we've talked about this before, right? I'm not actually going to draw the same tent, but what I'm going to do is like nomads. Well, maybe they're just camping. Maybe they're just camping outside on the outskirts of town. Maybe they're nomads. But okay, so the way that I do this is I say, okay, well, this tent has a square base, right? Or maybe it doesn't. Is it a square base? It looks pretty square to me, right? Square base, circular top. So what I do is just plan out the shape down in the bottom. I'm just going to use the lasso tool. Here would be, in perspective, the square base, right? So it's going to look like that. And then now I'm thinking like, okay, that front can be a little sloped, and it literally just like this. That's all I have to do. That's going to be my shape of tent. Maybe I don't like that shape. Maybe I want my tent to be more like that. Oh, with this being removed. I think I want it a little asymmetrical. But anyway, for starters, that'll work, right? So that's kind of that's the gist of it. And so I just can take a color like a dark red, and I can just make my silhouette. It's like, okay, here's silhouette. And then right down the middle, do that. And then again, we have another triangle in here. Right, both these tents have them. Round pyramid, yeah, pretty much. Both of these tents have the triangle shape in the front. So I'm just going to draw another triangle. Again, matching the bottom here. Same form. It's very... So I'm not drawing the exact same thing that is in the... And again, I don't know if I like that, but it's just... It's a shape for me to start with. So now I could, for example, make a new layer and just start carving it out. I could be like, okay, what if this one is a little bit shorter? Maybe there's some darker parts on the edge here. Maybe the perspective's a little off. But anyway, the reason why I want to talk through that is because I think a lot of times when people find references, they're like, I need to find the exact right thing. And it's not really about that. At least not for me. Or like maybe I want a rounded door. Or how can I communicate that this is a tent? And maybe, what if there was a couple tents? So maybe this tent should be, whoops. Maybe this tent should be a little smaller. And there's a couple of them. I mean, that's a big tent. Each tent should be all the same size, mostly. And at this point, once I realize what shape it is, right, it's just a triangle, I can pretty much just turn that layer off and draw the tent. But like sometimes it's nice to just do a little mini study or like a little shape design thing. You're currently practicing drawing upper body from reference. Oh, here Asia says, perfect. This will work. This is meant. There are 2 drawings on in one message. Sorry for a long. Yeah, no worries. No worries. Ooh, I like this. Yeah, I see this, Asia. This is nice. This is super cool. And then the next one. Okay, yeah, that's good. I like those actually a lot. They're very loose and flowy. Very nice. I'm currently practicing drawing the upper body from reference, but you're having a hard time doing the gradient from very dark to very bright. Ooh. Can I send you a Discord link too? You can drop it in here, yeah. Don't send it to me. Just drop it right in chat. I don't want to disrupt your art process too much. No, it's not disrupting my art process. My process is to stream it and to talk. Yeah, don't message me directly. I probably won't read it or respond if I do read it. I don't want to. Yeah, this is me being a business person when I say don't message me while I'm streaming or even after, because unless it's something like that directly relates to business. But if it's just like stream stuff, like, hey, here's my art, nope. Don't do that. Put it in Discord. Oh, I like this. This is really good. Also, really nice reference you have, because the super dark shapes with the super light shapes, that is good. Yeah, I love references that show clear shapes of like in this case a dark clothing against the white background, so you have all the edges. Also, this does not give me the sense of like the way they're standing is like, oh, look how casual it is, but it looks like a professional photo. Something about that gives me a weird feeling. Left shoulder, the crease of the right shoulder. Oh, like underneath it? Yeah. I mean, it gets very dark. There's a little bit of a light on the front. So, like, where... Let's see if I can show you. I'm not going to bring your image up, and this isn't a critique, right? So you have, like... Right, so you have, like, the shoulder, and then you have the fabric, right? And then the fabric is very dark. Oh, not that dark. But it's pretty dark. Right, the fabric is like this. I think showing this go up like that is useful. But you want to make it look like it goes under, right? I think a big part of that, and then there's a shoulder here, right? This is a shoulder. There's some shadow on the shoulder. Right, this is the dress thing. There's an arm here, but that's not important. this goes like that, and then goes around. I think for me, the big part is that there's gonna be, I don't know if you can even tell what I'm drawing, but this is an arm. There's an arm here. This is a person. This is their neck, their chest area. Okay, and then, so for me, the big thing is going to be these lines on top, right? You want to make those lines correct, I would imagine. Again, I'm not an expert at this, but yeah, also just go darker here. And I think also make the shape clear. But then it seems like, yeah, the hard part, it would be hard, but definitely I feel like showing it on top so that I feel like lightening up your brush strokes on top would help. Right? So because I think you're a little dark on top to where everything is just dark. It feels like it's a little flat. Whereas if you allow yourself a little bit of range in there, I think you can get some shapes like that. And also playing with the edges. I don't know. I'm not an expert at it, but that's how I would do it, I think. And then, of course, you know, do whatever like that. And then there's a little bit of value change, and it gets darker there. But I think, honestly, you could just soften all of that. And, of course, this is... And then, you know, follow the forms, right? So, whatever form... You know, anyway, I'm not going to draw the whole image, but there's a form there that the fabric is wrapping around. So, I don't know, something like that. Here's an arm. And then she's holding a phone. There you go. There's my drawing for the day. I don't know. But yeah, I think the big one is just making sure there's enough value range in here to show that there's forms here. There's also going to be like a little bit of a dark edge probably, but I don't even know if I would focus on that. I mean, that dark edge could almost fade away. I think some spots it's going to be thicker here than not. But I imagine, like, where it's further away from the skin, it's going to be darker. Where it's closer, it's going to be narrower. So you're going to have some dark, you know, some medium grays next to light grays with, like, a little tiny black line. And then in some places, you're going to have a lot of dark. I don't know. That's how I would do it. But again, not an expert at clothing or characters or any of the things I just talked about. So take it all with a gigantic grain of salt. But yeah, I do feel like making the black clothing less black. Like, there are spots for dark, right? And that's those deep dark spots. But most of it's not that dark. And this kind of goes back, I think, a little bit to what we were saying earlier. Where, like, our brain says, oh, that's a black dress. And so we want to paint it as if it's black. And you can, right? You could simplify it. But it's not the color that we're seeing. We're seeing a much lighter gray, even if it isn't a black dress. It might not even be black. It might just be a dark gray. I don't know. Yeah. But good luck. I liked your drawing. I thought it looked good. I don't think it looked wrong, really, at all. Probably better than I could do. Not that it's a competition, but, you know, if it were. No, I'm kidding. Art's not a competition. Unless you're talking about competition with yourself, then it's fine. I think art is okay. I think it is okay to take art as a competition, to be honest. I know everyone's like saying don't treat it like a competition, but as like a personal thing, I think it's fine to be like, I want to be the very best. Not at the downfall of you, but like, I just, you know, I think that mentality I think is good, because then you start like, I gotta know everything. I have to start figuring things out and asking questions and investigating. I don't know. I think when people start taking out the competition, is like they want their people who are their peers or better than them to be like, you want them to fail or something. That's where it gets, that's twisted and messed up. Don't do that. I don't know if I like these down here. Little tiny tents. You know what my teacher said when I struggle with fabric? Look at it as shapes and imagine what this angle is. At what angle this is, and this happened. And he said that figuring it out. Yeah, I mean, I think trying to go. Do I think something like that image would be good to break down into shapes? I don't know. Because it's complicated, right? There's a lot of scrunched fabric there. And I feel like simplifying it in a way... Like, maybe if you were doing a big drawing of it and you were trying to get, you know, photorealism, you would want to, like, sketch it out, each fold, and then make each fold have the right light and stuff. But I feel like that's not super important. It's kind of just a whole bunch of folds all scrunched up. And on top of each of the bumps, there's the light. And then as it goes down, it gets dark. And then it comes back up and it's bright again. And it goes down. So it's kind of like a whole bunch of... I guess I could just draw it here, right? There's a whole bunch of, like, here's one bump, and then here's 2 bump, 3 bump, 4 bump, right? There's like a whole series of bumps. And then each bump... Oh, hold on. I'm waiting for it to save. That's why I can't paint at the moment. Black screen, computer's loading. So like here, then there's a flat spot, and then there's another bump here, and another bump, and another bump, right? And then each of these bumps has a line, and in the lines it does get a little dark, but again, it's not too dark because they're being obstructed. But again, the seemingly the most important thing is on top of the bumps, right, is you actually get a lot of brightness, right? Because that's where the fabric is facing outward. And you actually get surprisingly little darkness down. There is some, but it's only where you actually, this really opens up. Then you do get a little bit down here. Some of the shapes down here, you can get into some of the shapes again with these deep, dark, occluded areas. I feel like, honestly, yeah, I think you're doing just fine, though. I don't know, you're doing better than I am. Look at my drawing. Little cheek dimples there. Look at that. That's my drawing. I don't know. Oh no, black screen. Yeah, the black screen happens when and it saves for some reason. Okay, every time I go back to this image, though, it does get a little bit not the right color. I'm gonna go a little darker. I didn't nail it in 1 minute. That's don't be ridiculous. But hopefully what I said, maybe there's something that can apply to what you were doing. But nailing it? No, not even close. Hopefully diagnosing the problem, but not nailing it. That's a bit much. I'm gonna bring back some of these bits of strands in here from the... Actually, it's kind of funny enough, it's actually the same thing I'm doing here, where I'm just trying to push the darkness a little bit back in the crevices. And I may even at some point come in here with like cracks on these rocks, and that's where I'll start putting in those dark areas, right? Even though the whole thing's in shadow, it's still significantly more light on the surface, right? Like on this surface, than there is going to be in the little occluded cracks, which are kind of like the folds of the fabric in your drawing. Right? Or if I have like a little crack here, sometimes there's cracks and stuff on the sides. Even those cracks are going to probably get less light. Not that I want cracks there. That's too much detail, I think. No, I don't think they sent it in Discord. If you wanna redraw something, well, one, make sure the person's okay with it, and also just copy and paste the thing they linked. I don't know why you need that where you wouldn't need to know where they sent it, unless you want to know where to send it back to them, I guess, which might be useful. Actually, it would be useful. I don't know. They probably don't need a paint over. I don't think that's quite the level where we're needing there. I think they're doing fine. Okay. I am trying to bring in some of these wheat thingies. Yeah, I don't know. They are probably head down painting right now. They don't see your. If they don't respond, that's probably why. Some little wheat. What else? So that's kind of. I think this painting is going to be a lot of. I think this is going to be a lot of. I guess detailed. I mean, we could go detailed in here. Something, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what shape, how do I want this shape to look? I think I want maybe some of these darker shapes on top. Okay, let's maybe now I can go in with the tents that I had earlier that I erased. Oh, you meant reference. Gotcha. Okay, I thought you meant redrawing it, like doing a paint over, which could have also been okay, but only if they want you to. But yeah, as far as using the reference, yeah, you don't have to ask for. I mean, if you want to use something as a reference and practice from it, you know, do it. But yeah, if you were gonna do it as like a finished piece, then you'd probably want to know the source to like, you know, credit the source. Especially if it's like on social media or something. I'm sure stuff like that, people like that would probably want you to tag them and be like, hey, I used you, I painted you. Or something. I don't know. I don't do a lot of that, so I don't really typically post my photo paintings or photo studies like that. I don't. Maybe this. Okay, I know I said no blue. What if I literally make this blue? Would that just like? I know that's a vibrant blue. This should be much darker. Blue and yellow. I mean, is that cheating? I literally am saying no blue, but now I'm literally painting in blue. Why are tents so hard to paint for me? Nah, this is cheating. I did say no blue, but you know what? Blue as an accent color is okay. I get to make my own rules, right? I can be wishy-washy on them. I can flip-flop. Flip-flop wishy-washy. All of it. Although I do feel like these could be a little smaller. You're mostly yellowing it till it looks good. Yeah, I think, you know what? I still think yellowing it till it looks good is totally fine. I think especially if you're paying attention to what you're doing when you're yellowing it. So much of my painting process, I mean less now, but so much of it is sort of you I mean, again, I don't want to make art sound like it's more like science than it needs to be, but it really is sort of like forming a hypothesis. You say, I think this light would bounce into here and or into here, and there should be some warmer light in here. Therefore, what if I added an orange glow in here? That should look more realistic. And then you try it and you add it and you're like, huh, I like that. That does look good. Therefore, maybe my hunch was correct. Maybe that light would get into those shadows, right? If it doesn't look good, you can say, maybe my hunch or my guess was wrong, right? So you kind of wing it. You don't really always know. It's a lot of guesswork, but when you do get it right, you remember what your guess was, and then you can use it for later, and you can learn from it, right? So you make, like, I think this will happen because of a reason, and then you apply it, and then you sort of think about, did that work? If not, why not? Was my assumption wrong? Did I apply it wrong? Like, what went wrong? And then you maybe you think, oh, I went. Maybe you say this should have some orange bounce light, and so you apply your orange bounce light, and you're like, this looks terrible. Orange bounce light's not right. Well, hold on. Maybe I applied it wrong. Maybe I could dial it back enough to where it doesn't feel like, and maybe you're like, okay, well, it still doesn't look quite right. But maybe it's because there's a, maybe my next hypothesis, well, what if all these had a little bit of orange bounce light, right? That way that it's consistent. Lighting should be a little bit consistent, right? Maybe that would make it look better. Yeah, sometimes, exactly, sometimes being real makes it look worse. Yeah. This is why I constantly will say things like, I don't want my image to look realistic. Like, or not, that's not true. But yeah, just recently I responded to somebody who asked about measuring and, like, how careful do you measure and how accurate do you want it to be? I'm like, accuracy isn't my goal, like it's readability, it's communication, and sometimes that means to be accurate, especially if the thing is like very particular, right? Then accuracy is more important. Like, faces are very particular. It's not going to look like me or you or someone close to you, like, unless it's you get the specifics right. But there are still ways that you can make that look more like them, for example. I don't know. I mean, have you ever seen a photo of, like, an actor's look-alike who looks more like the actor than the actor does? Like, all the features that you know of the actor, those are the features that some look-alike has. But they're like they almost look like a caricature of the actor themselves. And so, like, because that's something that I've seen quite often. I've never saved any of those photos, but like I remember seeing a Reddit post once. It was like actors whose lookalikes look more like them than they do, and it was crazy to see, like, oh, that's like Robin Williams, but but it's not, and it looks like then it shows a picture of Robin Williams who is like, has grown longer hair, and you're like, that kind of looks like him, even though it is. And it's funny how, like, yeah, so accuracy, yes, the doppelganger, when the doppelganger is like, yeah, anyway, it's funny. And so that's kind of, there's just a lot of things out there. Also, like, optical illusions. This is the second time today we've talked about them. Optical illusions are kind of a counterfactual to the idea that reality is king, We don't want optical illusions in our painting. Not the bad kind, anyway. So we're not trying to make it realistic, because real life has a lot of confusing scenarios, right? And just painting something that's in front of you might copy the complications. So we don't want to copy the complications. We want to make it more clear. Well, I do anyway, and you might want to. Not everyone wants to. Different people have different goals. Disclaimer. But yeah, it's one of those things where you don't always just want to copy the photo. Like Fata Morgana thing, maybe. I don't know. I don't know who that is. I'm not good with actors and actresses. I just when I see the images next to them, I can be like, yep, that's a person. Ooh, that'll work. I always try to draw something cool in their hands instead of a phone because I'm on it. So maybe I'll send it to Steam on a stream then. What is... Oh, the Discord. Yeah, we have Discord. Exclamation mark Discord. There we go. Okay, Asia says, so if you are on Discord, the use reference and my version of the thing is going to be on Discord in upcoming days, so we'll see. Off to bed I go. Oh, good night, Asia. Take care. Little camping people. That's what they're doing. They're going to be camping. Campers camping. Some hand studies you've done this week. Let's take a look. Ooh, tiny URL. Nice. Ooh, those are good hand studies. I like... That's cool. I like how you outlined... Kind of, sort of outlined, like, the knuckles. Like, the around the forms. You drew a lot of contours. I like that a lot. To me, I feel like you can... Well, I don't know for sure. You could just be doing it but I feel like when people draw contours on things, it shows an understanding of what they're actually trying to look at instead of just drawing what's there. Because, like, it's obvious that real life hands don't just have contours around the wrists and stuff, right? Unless you're wearing, like, a glove like this. But, like, you know, you don't have contours everywhere. But drawing them, I don't know, I like that a lot. I think that's a good indicator that, you know, people are paying attention to form and that kind of thing. I actually think that's probably one of the best ways to practice drawing mostly anything anatomy related, anything architectural related. If it has a form and you care about the form, drawing the contour feels like the best, because that forces you to understand what is the actual contour, like what is the shape, what is the form, right? You're no longer looking at it as a two-dimensional shape. You're no longer copying the reference, right? It's now about, like, interpreting the image into 3D and then reinterpreting it into 2D and onto your page. So yeah. Maybe we can go a little bit... I know I said no blue, but we are going blue now. Yeah, have a good night, Asia. Hope you sleep well. Okay, so there's this. I think this is good. I don't want to get too blue in here. Again, I do want it to be fairly not blue. Now, is there a way for me to do, like, a backpacker? Backpacker. Classic person on a mountaintop. Stock photo. There we go. Backpacking stock photo right here. Just a dude just standing. Maybe we'll silhouette on a mountaintop up here. Just kidding. He's not gonna be up here. But that looked like a Batman. I am the Batman. No, we're not gonna draw Batman up there. But no, just like a person. I don't know why he would have his backpacking gear on. Anyway, I'm not gonna draw the exact same thing. Also, that's a massive image. Bunch of mountain climbers. It could be. That'd be kind of cool. Mountain climbers. Somebody up here. That'd be kind of neat. And then show like the gear or something. That'd be kind of cool, actually. I don't know. I don't know enough about. Well, I guess there's different types of climbing, right? Sometimes you already have like a rope all up top, and people are like, if you have like lead climbing, you'd have someone in the lead, and then the other person like. I don't quite know how lead climbing works, but you could also have someone have the rope here, and then they're connecting and putting up their rope as they go, so the rope would only extend up to where they are. And then maybe you have two people down here and another person here. Although I feel like here we would want maybe the character would be here. That'd be kind of cool. Let's do that. Maybe there's another person down here. I should probably look at rock climbing more to know how these attach. I'm pretty sure this one would be on the wall, right? Because you're sticking it to the anchors or whatever you call them. At some point, though, the first anchor can be a little bit high up. I don't know. There. And then this one can go down. I like that idea, though. That's cool. Mountain climbers. Would you... I don't know quite... Yeah, that works. Okay, let's find an image of mountain climbers. Different poses. Mountain climbers. Oh god. I don't want stock photo of mountain climbers. Stock photo of a person just standing there is fine. I should just watch. I should just go to. I feel like YouTube would be a much better spot to find images of rock climbers because you see them doing it and then you can just pause it. Free climbers. Yeah, people who, well, yeah, not using ropes and stuff is pretty stupid. Seems dumb. And then if you use ropes and you do it properly, you're pretty safe as long as people are, if the belayer's doing their job and paying attention and you are doing things properly and you're not like skipping steps and being careless. Like I think it's relatively safe. Like I don't know. I think mountain climbing is always a thing where like it's it's sort of seen as like this, oh my gosh, it's super scary, or like it's super dangerous, and it is. Obviously, if you fall, you're dead, right? Most of the time, or if you fall and your equipment fails, and also every you did all the things wrong, and every like there are good ways. Yeah, I saw the one with Alex Honnold. I've seen the Alex Honnold free solo movie, um, and like, and he also does a lot of YouTube stuff too. So Alex Honnold is very popular. I don't know if it's Netflix or not, but it's the guy who soloed El Capitan in Yosemite. Um, but yeah, I feel like people who I actually watch quite a few rock climbing channels on YouTube. So there's a lot of rock climbers who make content. Um, I think Adam Andra, I think, makes the best videos. I think. I feel like Adam Andra's YouTube channel is just a gold mine for like if you ever want like climbing references, it's great. Also, like he has a super pro photography team, so they um so just like gorgeous shots of scenery and stuff. It's pretty cool actually. Really well filmed stuff. But anyway, so yeah. Oh, Magnus Mitbo. Yeah, Magnus videos are pretty cool too. Um, yeah, I've never really done much rock climbing or bouldering, but I do watch rock climbing videos for some reason. I don't know. They're fun. Your brother recently got into bouldering, so I've been benefiting from his visitor passes in recent months. Oh, that's cool. Also gone down to make this video. Yeah, Adam Andra is like a rock star climber. Yeah, I mean, I imagine any of the YouTubers who I know doing rock climbing are gonna be like the rock star climbers because they're the ones who are popular, you know? Like they're not necessarily the best. Although I think Adam Andra is actually pretty good. I think he's both good and has a good YouTube channel. Whereas like the others, I'm never totally sure like just how like high caliber are they, but it's crazy. This is where I feel like though sometimes you could have people being passed off as like better than they are, but you also literally do have like the best people in the world at things making content, like especially in things like chess, for example. Literally that like the two best players in the world actively make chess content. Like you have Magnus Carlsen and another Magnus, and you have Hikaru Nakamura who streams like daily on Twitch. Like it's wild that you have literally the what some of the best people at their like respective fields doing things live for others to like ask questions and see what they're doing. Adam Andra is one of the best. Okay, I had a hunch he seemed like it because I know he actually I think he was just in the Olympics, um, like in the last Olympics. So like he is like competing. Um, but yeah. Anyway, Czech guy mentioned. Oh, a Czech guy mentioned. I don't know who's a Czech guy. I don't know. I don't know their nationalities. Just want to say, K-Reg says, just want to say, watching you paint and listening to your explanation leveled up my shading game. Oh, thank you. I don't know if that's what you were talking about. But, yeah. Okay, so now, how do I draw people rock climbing? I don't know. I guess 1 foot. We don't have to have, like... I don't know. We just need to have silhouettes of people. Really. There's a lot of obscure, amazing... Yeah, probably. Obscure, amazing European climbers. Yeah. I mean, there's just a lot of obscure, amazing people in general, because not everybody has climbing videos and stuff. But yeah. I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I have, like, such an appreciation of people who are really good at things also documenting it for, like, the world to see. I don't know, it's just super cool. This doesn't really look like a rock climber. They're just, like, in too classic of a pose, kinda. But that's okay. Crook in the elbow. Maybe I should have put, like, a big old crack down here that they're climbing. I don't know. Like me? Well, no, not like me. I mean, I appreciate it. I don't feel like no, not anywhere near that. Like, no, definitely not. I mean, I will say, I think what I do, which is paint live and talk and be distracted while painting and still feel like I can do some things that look decent-ish. I do feel like that's a somewhat particular skill. I think not everybody who is good at painting paints live, and not everybody talks about it or whatever. So I don't think I'm great at it, or great at talking about it. But I don't know. There's probably something that, like if you take it in its totality, I'm probably okay at it, at whatever I'm doing. Yeah, I know it's hard. It's hard to talk and do stuff at the same time. It's that. Let's get this away, and then we'll add the blue line up here. He's hooking in the line. Is that how that works? Yeah. I think that's how that works. I don't know. So yeah, is that very clear though? I don't feel like that's very clear. So we could go yellow. Is it clear that they're rock climbing? I don't know if it is. It's hard to draw ropes from a distance, you know? I don't know how people talk while arting. Well, I don't always do it. I sometimes end up, especially at the end of a stream, like I'm kind of, like right now, as I start to wind down, and I start to have to start making decisions that actually matter in my painting. Well, not actually, it's not true. Sometimes those decisions come early. But yeah, sometimes when my brain slows down and I just go into render mode or something, it can be a little hard to paint and talk at the same time. Turns into spiders crawling. True, but you could just go full on fantasy spiders. Just... I don't know how spiders look. That looks more like an ant or something. I don't know. There we go. Just massive spiders crawling up the... Yeah. And they're being belayed, apparently. And they... Oh no, we're not gonna go... That is terrifying. Okay, so over here, let's put some red. I don't know, just so that we can see them. This person can be wearing red pants. Or maybe blue pants? I don't know. Maybe shirtless? It looks like a warm day. This person can also be wearing red pants. Just for some That's not super clear, probably, but I don't know. And then we need some other people down here who are actually belaying them. Because, you know, you gotta have proper, what do you call it? You know, we aren't gonna do, I don't want to perpetuate, like, I don't know, what I think is garbage. Like, the whole free soloing things. Like, that's, no. You gotta show it in a good way, you know? Gotta do, like, it's like when people make fantasy of like um uh like artists or somebody, like not artists, what am I thinking of? Like archers hit people with their bows and stuff. Like I guess you could, but like wouldn't that damage your bow? Like surely you're not gonna be breaking your tool, your weapon, the thing that you do. Like this is not how archers are going to treat their equipment, right? You're not going to have a guitar person beating people with their guitar and then like also play like you know like maybe people will get angry and break their stuff, sure, but like you're not going to be that disrespectful to the thing that you've trained your life using, right? Like I don't know. Seems weird. Yeah, maybe as a last resort, but like, you know, just because it looks cool in fantasy, yeah, sure, maybe it's a last resort, you have no arrows left, whatever, right? But if you're beating someone over and then trying to shoot, like no, you're gonna be bending it out of shape, like things are gonna get messed up, you're gonna have to restring and also like I think you do typically restring when you transport it. Anyway, my point is even without knowing much about archery, uh, you're not like I think showing a thing that is supposed to be cool when it's just bad form feels like it's doing a disservice to the actual hobby of archers, right? Like people who actually like that as a hobby, who enjoy shooting, like they're probably annoyed at all the bad fantasy archer tropes. Just like whenever people talk about rock climbing, they always immediately go to free soloing, which is like not what people actually do. Like obviously there are people who do it, but it's not the norm. It's seen as unsafe and like don't be stupid, right? Like we don't want to glorify this super unnecessarily dangerous thing when there's perfectly reasonable and safer ways to do the sport. Anyway, to me it just feels like a like it could be easy to put it in here because it's cool, but without actually, you know, with no reason. I don't know. Did I make my point clear? The worst part isn't going up with a rope, going down. Yeah, you're right. That's funny. That's a very dad joke. How very dad joke of you. Yeah. No, you're not wrong. Okay, I don't know. I'm trying to make this just like a person standing without making them visible, super visible. Little red pants. That way we know it's a person. Person with red. Maybe this one has blue pants back here. Maybe these all have blue pants. Blue pants people are belaying the people down up top. Maybe there's a couple. There. And we'll get rid of these. That way they're less obstructions. Your art smells like sandy dirt. Lovely colors. Thanks. I don't know about smelling it, but yeah, I guess if that would be the mood, that would be the vibe that I'm going for. Is I guess is warm, probably dry, maybe sandy. No, it's not. Probably more wheat fields. Fantasy wheat fields and climbing spots. The colors are always top notch. Oh, I appreciate it. I was happy with today's colors. We've been doing a bunch of last stream and this stream. Last stream I said no green, and then I had, because I was painting so many forests and they were all green. So this is what I did last stream minus that, which I liked. I liked it. I don't do a lot of characters. Trying to put some more characters and figures into my work. These were today's thumbnails. So no blue today. We did use green. And then the thumbnails last stream were these. So this was no green day. So we used a lot of blue. A lot of blue. So yeah. We do a lot of this stuff. A lot of sketching environments. This was the one before that. A lot of little, you know, just, yeah, environments, fantasy places mostly. So now that we have a clear plan, trying to make this as... This dude feels like he's wearing a leotard. Maybe people climb in that, I don't know. Use the face plants in the sand all the time. They all look pretty. Thanks. I used to trip and skid my knee on them. Hard to clean off the sand. Okay, is that... See, I don't know if this is clear at first blush, which is probably okay. I don't know. I think if I would have planned this to be a rock climbing image, I could have probably made it a little bit more clear. But I don't think that's too bad. Now let's focus on the field. Now I want to draw attention away. So we had some higher contrast like here. I actually want to push it more into here. Now that we have an actual focus and kind of a point that we're making. Or not a point, but you know what I mean. We have the message is people rock climbing. So now we can bring in shapes, make lines that go into the scene. Is respecting the rule of thirds. Yeah, kinda. I mean, it's pretty central, but yeah, it kind of is. It's thirds, or I don't know. If we wanted to get real particular, maybe it's closer to 5/8. Isn't that a pretty common one too? I don't know. I don't really care about those things, but this is probably more not on a third. It's probably more the... Is it what you call it? The 5/8? Where you divide it into 8 parts or something, and it's like on the 5th, so it's slightly more. I don't know. Campfire. I thought about it, but then it looked like a very I thought about a composition, or I thought about a campfire, but it was very warm in here. It was a very warm scene, so I thought maybe the campfire is unnecessary. But yeah, maybe we could still go, especially now that there's people back here. We could do like a bit of a glow. But I don't know if they'd be climbing with campfire, smoke, all that. I don't know. Doesn't really... I feel like the more you think about the campfire, the less it makes sense. It's very warm. Maybe they cooked something to eat it. Or maybe there's a camp, a camp over here or something. where they're... I mean, technically this doesn't make sense. Why are they, like, climbing right here, right? I can't imagine you'd want to be directly above a fire. Yeah, exactly, getting smoked while climbing. Yeah, it doesn't seem like a smart choice, but again, also this, like, I'm pretty sure they would be... You'd see more of the stuff back here, the crevices. I don't know, because they'd be further in, because that's where they start. So they, I don't know. This already has issues with the logistics of rock climbing, but again, I'm not a rock climber. What do I know? I'm just an artist. I just paint stuff. Also, there's not a vehicle in sight, which is kind of weird, but maybe we'd have like the van parked over here. No, they hiked, they trekked in, they were backpacking. I'm kind of stumbling now, so I think I'm gonna end stream here. I think this is a good spot to end. I might actually finish this one at some point. Most of the time when I paint, for anyone who's new here, I don't typically finish the things I paint. I just kind of paint on them for one day and then call it a day. But I think today I will probably work on this more. I think it's fun. I think there's some neat storytelling stuff going on. Fantasy rock climbing. I don't know. Maybe I'll do more fantasy rock climbing stuff in the future. That could be neat. Maybe little towers up here. They indeed would be closer depending on where the first... Yeah, I feel like you'd typically start climbing deep down in here, so... I don't know where the layers stand. Do they stand over... I mean, I assume you would stand directly under the first... the last anchor point, right? I assume the belayers would stand underneath where they are, so they would walk back as they do. But I think you would typically, if you're everyone's starting down here, I kind of feel like there'd be supplies and stuff down there, you know? Especially if, like, people... Maybe there's somebody's doing, like, a little bouldering, so there's some boulder mats back here or something. There's, like, a... You know, maybe someone's doing a little route up here. I don't know. But then this is obviously... Yeah. I don't know. I think also the scale's kind of weird. These people are kind of big, I think, for the scale. I mean, that's still definitely a good height away, right? A lot of body heights. So you would definitely die if you didn't... So, I don't know. It kind of makes sense. I think I'm going to go a little brighter, though, on this rope. In this rope. Just a little bit brighter. I love it. It's like they're practicing and checking equipment before exploring the ruins. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe that's what they're doing. There's... Yeah. Or maybe this is just where they're from. Maybe they're from this fantasy place. Back in the distance, there's a castle. Or maybe they are just runes. I feel like they probably are runes. But this kind of makes me think castle. Back here. I don't know. But it's kind of cool. Maybe here we can bring that up. It's down. I'm trying to figure out what to do with the side of this. This will work. Maybe they love glow sticks. Oh, glow sticks would be cool. Oh, having a rave down here. Everyone's wearing like glowy That'd be kind of cool. All these little glow sticks. I don't quite know how that would work. Maybe around the wrists. That'd be kind of fantasy. Fantasy glow sticks around the wrist and the hands. Is that an omelet? No omelet here. I kind of like the glow sticks. Climbing with glow sticks. That'd be kind of cool. Is that a thing that would be stupid? I feel like having jewelry while climbing would not be smart, but what do I know? I don't know. I would need it if I'm climbing in the dark. True, I guess, yeah, you could have, like... I mean, I guess these people should also have helmets. Hold on, let's give them helmets. Helmets are nice. You never know if a rock or a climber above you is gonna drop something. Let's give them a helmet. Helmet, safety first, guys. We want to safety first. The most logical is headlights. Yeah, true, headlights could be cool. Also, I'm not sure. It's just me trying to make it read a little better. Anyway, I think we're gonna end here. I like where we ended up. Let's go find somebody to raid. Thanks for being here, by the way, everyone. I really appreciate it. It means a lot, everybody hanging out. I think today's stream was a little more chill vibes, kinda. But yeah, next stream... Oh, wait! Oh my gosh, I didn't even talk about it. The thing. I have an announcement to make on this Saturday, in 2 days. I'm gonna put it in Discord, so here, let me put my Discord here. I haven't made a thing about it, but yeah, on this Saturday, I want to do a Secret Santa sketch exchange. It's pretty casual. Anyone can join. There's not really a sign up. Basically, you just have to be here within the first hour of stream. I will make a sign up channel in Discord, like, tomorrow, so that people can sign up. But basically, the way it works is to sign up, you just have to think of some sort of Easter-themed or pastel, you know, think candy, Easter, cotton candy, not cotton candy, pastel vibes, chocolate, you know, spring. Think of some prompt that would be fun to draw. It could be anything. It could be bunnies eating chocolate on you know, while hiking or something. It could be anything. And then just, so think of a prompt. When I open up the Discord channel, you'll just type it in the channel and that'll be your sign up. And then I will shuffle all the names. Everybody who wants to participate will receive a name. If you've signed up, that means you're participating. So then everybody who signed up will then receive a name of somebody else who signed up. And then I'll do all the mixing and shuffling and all that. And then you'll paint or draw or whatever, make art based on the prompt. And so it's super casual. It'll happen during stream. I don't want people to, you know, no take-home assignments. If you're here and you want to draw or make art, you can join. You know, don't spend more than anywhere from, you know, 30 minutes to 2 hours or 3 hours. You know, I'm going to spend the full 3 hours, but that's because I'm streaming, and what else am I going to do? So yeah. I will make more announcements about this in Discord tomorrow, and then, of course, Saturday I'll be talking about it before we start. But I should have talked about this more today, because there were some people here earlier who weren't now. But anyway, it's not a big deal. It's a very casual event. We can always do more of them. But that's kind of, yeah, that's a thing. So that's coming up. Stay tuned. See you Saturday for the Secret Bunny sketch exchange. No Santas here. Okay. Take care, everybody.